The game.
It's coming. Picked up. Purdy sets. Launch. Has Samuel wide open. He's got it. Touchdown.
The game has just gone final. The 49ers knock off the Seattle Seahawks once again, this time at home. Final score 28-16. The 49ers improved to 10-3. And they are just a little bit of help away from officially clinching a playoff spot here in week number 14. A 28-16 win today over the Seattle Seahawks. The Niners have now beaten Seattle 5 consecutive times, including 2 in their last 3 games this season. The 49ers beat Seattle by 12. Welcome into overtime here on 95.7 The Game. Mark Randy and Sterling Bennett with you as always. Sterling, a 12-point Niners win. They didn't quite cover the point spread, which got up to, 16 points this morning, I think, when Drew Lock was announced as the starting quarterback. Geno Smith out with a groin injury, but a 12-point win. The biggest thing is get a win. You keep pace at the very worst with the Eagles at the top of the NFC. But a win's a win, Sterling, and the 49ers have now won, 5 consecutive games in a row, once again, just like they did to begin the season.
We knew coming into this game that Seattle was going to fight from the opening kickoff to the end, and literally they did fight at the end of this game.
There were some punches thrown.
But we knew that Seattle, their playoff hopes were on the line coming into this game. They knew if they had any chance, although slim, to maybe win the NFC West, they had to beat San Francisco and get that tiebreaker. They knew when they came into today, this was their playoff hopes, this was their playoff seeding, but like me and you already knew. San Francisco is a different beast. They're of a different breed. What they do offensively, and despite not having Mooney Ward for the majority of this game, Devon Hargrave got hurt. Armstead didn't play the entire game. San Francisco is just the best team in the entire league. You saw them come out a little shaky early. A couple shots on defense didn't go their way, but from the first, dare I say, second offensive play, CMC 72 yards, gets you in the red zone. San Francisco, while this game was close, one score for a lot of it, 14-10 for a large chunk, it never felt like this game wasn't at hand or San Francisco wasn't going to win.
Yeah, no, I mean, the first play from scrimmage you mentioned was the Christian McCaffrey 72-yard touchdown run. You felt like for a moment he was going to go all the way for a touchdown. Got tackled down to the 3. Then Jordan Mason came in and got a touchdown. You mentioned playing without Armstead all day today. You were also without your number 2 running back, Elijah Mitchell, inactive today in this one. You mentioned some of the injuries that happened throughout the game. We will certainly update you based on what Kyle Shanahan says momentarily about the injuries, specifically to Mooney Ward. Mooney Ward got injured. That was the first drive of the game for the Seattle Seahawks and did not come in the rest of the game. Now, important to note, He had his jersey and his pads on the entire game, did not come back out of the locker room with street clothes on. He looked like he could have gone back into the game, just never did. Who knows? We'll get an update from Kyle Shanahan there. Dre Greenlaw left the game momentarily. He came back in. That's good news there for the 49ers. We will certainly update you on some injuries. This felt like a game where the 49ers, if a couple of things go a different way, they could have won by 18, by 20, by 25. Ultimately, it's a 12-point win, and we're at a point of the 49ers season where we're not going to argue over, they didn't win by enough. You just got to win. And the Niners have found ways to do that now over the last 6 weeks. They've won their last 5 games. And this was, I think, of all of the Niners wins this year, Sterling, it was kind of more of a game where you just kind of had to tough it out.
Yeah.
It wasn't smooth. It was kind of choppy. It was start and go. You had the big play early. Really, you were saved by big plays all game long. The offense wasn't really smooth. You had some negative plays. You were sacked a few times, but when you needed a big play, you got one. Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Ayuk. Deebo and Ayuk were both over 100 yards receiving. Ayuk now 1,000 yards on the season for the second consecutive year. It wasn't the smoothest game, but the Niners proved when the game gets a little bit uneven, they can still come out on top and they win by 12, and that's really all that matters.
Well, if I told you Brock Purdy nearly had 370 yards passing, I don't think anybody would
didn't really
believe
feel
that.
like it.
Felt like it was more of this game is 14-10 and 17-10. Like the last team to score might actually be the winner of this game. Now, that ends up being San Francisco, and they win 28-16. But this game felt much closer than the box score would say. Christian McCaffrey had 145 yards on the ground. Didn't feel like that. This felt like an old-school NFC West punch in the mouth, and whoever comes out winning is likely not going to have some teeth. And you watch this game back, or you finish watching it now, and if you're San Francisco, you escaped with the win. Now, you hope your guys are healthy coming out of it. Plenty of injuries to go around, but Kyle Shanahan said pregame that the win in Philadelphia was so emotional that the players were exhausted. They were exhausted emotionally of how were they going to respond playing a team like Seattle who wants to come in here and punch in the mouth. Nothing would have been greater for Seattle than to watch San Francisco beat Philadelphia at the Link last week, then travel to San Francisco and beat San Francisco. It would almost be like a statement game for Seattle, like, hey, we're still here. Don't forget about us. And San Francisco said, there's a reason why you're now tied for second place in the NFC West, and now you're under 500.
They've lost 4 straight games?
4 straight games for the first time in Pete Carroll's entire tenure.
Yeah.
Since 2010, they have not lost 4 straight games.
I think they've lost 5 of 6.
They're not
as
good.
Well.
They're not a very good team. Their playoff hopes have drastically sunk.
I thought they put up a really good effort today without their starting quarterback. I mean, again, the
Drew
spread
Lock looked good.
The spread was, 16.5?
Yeah.
They covered the spread. They covered the spread, but I mean, you're right. This was a game where, I came into this game, especially when you found out that Geno Smith was not playing.
Would you say 31-13?
31-13 was my prediction. I thought there was absolutely no chance the Seahawks win this game. Now, there's a reality in which they keep it close, and they kept it close and competitive for a bit, but if you're a Niner fan, you never really felt like you were in any danger.
Even when it was 14-10.
Right.
It just felt like
when the Seahawks were up 10-7, and even then you're like, they'll figure it out. They'll get it going.
Even being down or even being ahead by 4, it felt like there was a gigantic chasm in between both teams of, we know we can score at any second here. Seattle's going to have to fight for 99 or 75 yards inch by inch, where San Francisco had like 12 plays for 20-plus yards.
Yeah. Okay, let me ask you this. So the Niners go down. They score on their first drive. 2 plays. The 72-yard McCaffrey run looked like he was going to get it in by himself on that first play. And then Jordan Mason spells him from 3 yards out and kind of vultures the touchdown away from
Jordan Mason
McCaffrey.
Getting some reps.
Yeah, shout out Jordan Mason. And then the Seahawks, they go right down the field on their first drive. And what happened was on a comeback to DK Metcalf, he ultimately breaks a tackle of Mooney Ward, and that's where Mooney Ward injured himself. And it was officially called a groin injury. He was listed as questionable to return. Again, stayed on the sideline, but never came back into the game. And then the next 2 passes after that, they target kind of the moving pieces in the Niners secondary. When Mooney Ward goes out, it moves Deommodore Lenoir from the slot to the outside corner, kind of the number one corner spot opposite Ambry Thomas.
He was great today.
He was really good today. We could talk more about that later because after this first drive, DK Metcalf did nothing. But it moves Deommodore Lenoir to the outside. And then it means Isaiah Oliver, who was previously your slot corner starter to start the season, but has since been benched, he has to enter the fray once again. And the next passing play after Mooney Ward goes out, the Seahawks go right at Isaiah Oliver. They get a nice gain on a catch and run to Tyler Lockett. And then the next play after that, they target DK Metcalf, who instead of Mooney Ward being on him, it's Ambry Thomas. And it's the touchdown, a beautiful back shoulder throw and a crazy catch by DK Metcalf. And suddenly, it's a 7-7 ball game.
Oh, DK Metcalf.
And at that point...
Big old baby.
he got into it at the end.
He's a big old baby.
He got into it at the end, but
Poor loser.
That was an incredible catch. And at that point, if you're a 49er fan, you're thinking, uh-oh, we're down our top corner. Right when he went out, we got beat downfield by two of their receivers.
Don't have Eric Armstead already.
Maybe this could be a shootout. Things turned around just a little bit, but there was maybe a little bit of cause for concern early. The secondary, though, after that really stepped up and played well.
I think you look at the box score again, and you could feel it the minute San Francisco's offense got going that, okay, the defense just needs to hold, play bend, don't break. They're great at that. They've been playing phenomenal since the bye week. But the offense, as soon as they got going, you just kind of sat back and said, yep, let's give it time. We'll put up 30 again. Now, they missed it by 2 points.
Come on.
But it never felt like the offense was having trouble moving the football down the field. Even their biggest mistake, the interception off Ayuk's hands, miscommunication, but you never felt like it was going to bite you. It never felt like that one pick or even 2 picks were going to come back and haunt you in this game because Seattle doesn't scare anybody. We talked about it on Thanksgiving night. I'm not scared of Seattle. San Francisco is no longer scared of Seattle. Pete Carroll, for as great of a coach as he has been and he currently still is, they just don't have enough. And when you look at Lenoir, who is like, 5'9", maybe?
Yeah.
Locking down like a 6'4" DK Metcalf all game.
He was great.
To a point where he wants to throw hands when they know the game's over with. Like the ability and just how impressive San Francisco is on offense and defense to just frustrate the opposing team is unlike anybody else. Philadelphia is a great team. They're a good team. The Dallas Cowboys are having...
Breaking news, Eagles not a great team?
The Cowboys are playing really good football currently. They face off tonight. We'll see who actually wins that game because San Francisco can have the number 1 seed when it's all said and done. But San Francisco, what they're able to do on both sides of the ball is just... You have to outlast them mentally and physically, and you cannot do that. No team can go up against this team and beat them mentally and physically.
Yeah, no, they just come at you quarter after quarter after quarter after quarter, and if they don't get you in the first, they don't get you in the second, they're eventually going to wear you down.
In the third or the fourth.
They're going to wear you down. It's just what they do. And what was it that Ryan Clark and Marcus Spears said after Monday Night Football? First, you called them gangster nerds, but they said, schematically intelligent but ignorantly violent.
Right.
Like they're the smartest football team in the country, in the world.
Yeah.
But they're also the most violent, the most physical, the toughest. And that's an incredibly difficult team to go up against. And if you catch them on a day where maybe they're not at their cleanest, maybe they're not connecting on, the easy slants, the screens that give them 17 yards on a good day, if those are falling incomplete or they're going for 5 yards instead of a first down and, you get across midfield, if those aren't working, well, guess what? This is still the most physical team in the NFL, and they could beat you in kind of a grind-out affair. And this is an offense that even when they're not at their best, and I would argue today, not at their best, but they still put up 28 points. You're right. Brock Purdy throws for 368 yards in this game.
Career high.
Passing yards?
Yeah.
And the offense in total, 527 net yards. But I can sit here and honestly say, I don't think it was the best offensive game. It was maybe the most explosive game they've had in terms of the big plays, but everything in between, the short game, a lot of what I think people use to credit the Niners offense. And when they're trying to discredit Brock Purdy, they say, well, it's just, he throws it to the flat and McCaffrey runs for 20 yards. Like
dink and dunk.
That wasn't really what happened today. No. It was the deep ball. It was the big plays. Obviously, they got some in the run game as well. But this wasn't the smoothest offensive game, and yet they still put up 28 points, a career high in passing yards for Brock Purdy, and 527 yards of total offense. Like, this team, not even at their best, is still one of the best offenses in the NFL.
They're 12 points better than you. They are 2 scores better than you, even having a near equal possession time, having the exact same amount of turnovers. Like, this was a game Seattle had a chance in up until early fourth quarter, and San Francisco said, yeah, you thought, like, put the game away, call it a night. It feels like even when San Francisco has their feet in the mud or they're tired, they played a tough game the week prior, you're just waiting with anticipation for them to explode. You're just waiting for Kittle to make a big play or Deebo to make a massive play. He had a handful of massive plays today. Deebo, this is his 3rd straight game with a touchdown, his 2nd consecutive game with 2 touchdowns in those games, and his 2nd consecutive game with a touchdown run and touchdown catch.
Yeah.
Like, for all the talk of Chris McCaffrey being the offensive player of the year or the MVP, has Deebo said, hello, don't forget, I am also really good.
Well, yeah. So both of Deebo's touchdowns today came in the first 3 quarters.
Yeah.
And all 3 of his touchdowns against Philadelphia came in the final 3 quarters last week. So before the 4th quarter started, in his last 6 quarters of football, he had scored 5 touchdowns. The final 3 quarters in Philly and the first 3 quarters today. 5 touchdowns over a 6-quarter span for Deebo Samuel.
When you wondered, could he carry that over into this game? It wasn't even a question. It was like, okay, what else will he do next? What's coming next for Deebo? Oh, just 2 more touchdowns, over 100 yards again.
No big deal.
Run through almost every defender. He made Jamal Adams look like the sorry defender that he actually is.
We have to talk about that.
Too worried about reporters in New York, your previous team, being like, wow, yikes, Jamal. Out there calling out reporters in New York than actually covering Deebo Samuel.
Yeah, in case you missed it.
What a joke.
I forget his name, but an NFL media personality, quote tweeted a bad play by Jamal Adams? Was that what it was? A mistake?
It was a poor coverage play where I think he gave up a touchdown.
Yeah, so a bad play by Jamal Adams, and the reporter pointed it out, as oftentimes you see on Twitter.
He just said, yikes.
He just said, yikes. And Jamal Adams screenshots, the guy's profile picture, which I imagine included his girlfriend or his wife.
So messed up.
And said, yikes, back. Incredibly messed up. Now, I don't know what it's like to have that kind of, I don't know.
Scrutiny,
people you don't know. The scrutiny, the media scrutiny. Right. I don't know what that feels like, but Jamal, that's not cool. But today, I mean, you're right. That touchdown to Deebo Samuel.
He said, when they go low, I go lower. Yes, you do, Jamal. On the ground when you get burnt.
You're right. That's what he did. But 3rd and 11. 3rd and 11, the 49ers have the ball at what? The 46-yard line. So they're approaching midfield. They're at their own 46-yard line. 3rd and 11. This is when the Niners are trailing in the first half.
Yeah.
And the Seahawks have a chance to get off the field, get the ball back to their offense. Maybe they could build the 2-score lead. You never know. 3rd and 11. Deebo runs a deep post. Ayuk just running a go from the right side where Deebo also started. He takes everyone on the right side of the field with him. Ayuk does. That leaves Jamal Adams as the lone deep defender on the left side of the field, and Deebo is running right at him. And Jamal Adams, kind of inexplicably, Sterling, is flat-footed as Deebo Samuel is running right at him. And as Deebo Samuel gets past him, Jamal Adams finally realizes that he's got to turn around and start going.
He went, hey, you're behind me now.
And he no longer has the speed to stay with Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel ran right past him, and it was a perfect ball by Brock Purdy over the top of Jamal Adams, perfectly in the breadbasket of Deebo Samuel. He never had to break stride. 54-yard touchdown. Suddenly the Niners back in front 14-10 with about 8 to go in the second quarter. That was one of the biggest plays of the game, because if they don't get that 3rd and 11, Seattle gets the ball back, who knows how it could change how this game went. But Jamal Adams just totally not prepared to stick with Deebo Samuel. Deebo and Brock Purdy took advantage.
Do you think he actually could stick with him even if he was prepared?
Maybe not.
Because I don't.
Yeah.
I just think Jamal Adams has been a glorified edge rusher that plays safety. Just make him a linebacker.
Yeah, if he's your last line of defense, it's not the best strategy. He does not have the foot speed to keep up with these elite receivers.
Well, and Seattle also lost Witherspoon early in this game, too, so they didn't have their number one cornerback, who's had a great year for them. And there were some plays in this game where you're like, oh, all right, Brock, like those are pretty close interceptions here. There was one earlier when they're almost the exact same situation as it was in Seattle, backed up against your own end zone or your own red zone, and they throw the ball 3 straight times, and you're like, hey, Kyle, you didn't learn. What are we doing? But then, again, you scored 28 points. It just feels like this team is so talented, they can almost overcome anything. Whether it's 3 injuries on defense, whether it's a poor start on offense, they're going to eventually score 28, 30 points. They're going to eventually win the game. And it just feels good. Like, can I just be, it just feels good to sit back and say, yeah, my team can stink for an entire half and they'll still win by 12. Like, when have we ever been able to say that?
Also, I mean, I don't know how you felt, and I kind of got this sense, one, it's a little bit how I felt about this game, and I got the sense from Niners fans in general, and maybe part of it is because last week was such a big game, the Eagles, and it's kind of like what you were talking about earlier, what Kyle Shanahan was worried about was kind of the emotional letdown. You had what felt like a regular season playoff game last year. Like, it felt like that big of a deal. How is the team going to respond? I kind of got a little bit of that sense from the fan base. I mean, the Thanksgiving night game in Seattle felt like a much bigger deal, felt way more anticipated, felt like a bigger challenge. Now, maybe part of that is because it was a road game and it was on Thanksgiving night and you have the national audience there watching it. This kind of just felt like a ho-hum game that Niner fans obviously were excited about, and it's a chance to stay pace atop the NFC with, or not atop, but right behind the top of the NFC with the Eagles. This just kind of felt like the least, not important, but like the least amped up Seahawks game I can remember in a while.
Well, I think it's because when you go to Seattle and you beat them, it kind of takes the monkey off your back. Like, oh, we're all relieved now. And you have Philadelphia in your sights. In Philadelphia, you have to win that game. Coming back home, playing Philadelphia, like, I don't think you were worried. I wasn't worried. Sure, there were maybe thoughts of, you never know, trap game, big game against Philadelphia last week, you win. You have to come in, take care of business. But the minute Christian McCaffrey broke that 72-yard run, I was like, yeah, okay, we're good. Like, there's not going to be a lull period or, come out sluggish, albeit, again, it wasn't their best game. The minute your star running back rushes for 72 yards on the first play of the game, what are we supposed to think? Oh, man, like, this game's going to be so close. It's like, no, this game's over. And it's only 7-0 now. It took 2 plays.
And you're in the end zone.
And it's like, bam, 7. And Seattle, with their backup quarterback instantly on their heels. Now, granted, they answered, but just to score 7 points on 2 plays, essentially telling Seattle, we're going to march 75 yards on you with ease, with a massive 72-yard run. That was almost indicative of how the game was going to go. Massive splash plays everywhere. Ayuk, Deebo, Kittle, Purdy was awesome for the majority of this game. It just felt like that San Francisco, it wasn't going to be a Kyle Shanahan 13-play drive. It was going to be 5 plays, a 60-yard touchdown pass, and call it a night. It felt like that was the entire game.
Yeah, it really was. And so much of the talk last week, Sterling, about this game, about the Eagles game was, the Eagles are coming off of a short week and, off a normal week. The Niners have the long week, kind of the mini bye after the Thursday game on Thanksgiving. The Niners have the rest edge. That's going to be a big factor in this game. And ultimately it was, because the Niners went into Philadelphia and absolutely dominated. The Seahawks had the rest edge into this game. They played on the Thanksgiving following, or the Thursday following Thanksgiving when they were in Dallas taking on the Cowboys in a barn burner that they barely lost. That was a tough loss for the Seahawks, but they had the mini bye going into this game. The Niners were the team coming off of a game on the East Coast against the best team in the NFL, at least the best record in the NFL.
Not anymore.
And your biggest emotional test, physical test of the season to this point. And I'll ask you this, Sterling, which team felt, looked, sounded, played more rested?
Well, you would think it would be San Francisco. And it's not even just that who looked more rested. It's Seattle got healthier, had Charbonnet back, had Walker back. San Francisco didn't have Armstead. You're sitting back saying, okay, Seattle going to run the football. Now, I get it. Locke played over Geno Smith, mind you, but Locke looked fine through 3 quarters in this game.
Yeah.
Like,
I was impressed, honestly.
The one game-stealing pick, the ball got tipped by Chase Young. Whatever. It didn't feel like Locke played
poorly. It was 4th and 13 anyway.
Exactly.
It doesn't even matter.
It didn't feel like Locke was the reason they lost this game. But it did feel like San Francisco did what Philadelphia couldn't do. It's at home, take care of business against a team that wants to upset you. And that's another factor in what separates San Francisco from a team that currently has a better record than them. Is back against the wall, at your own place, a team that wants to come in and punch you and smack you in the mouth, a team that's healthier than you, minus quarterback. They had all of, I don't want to say favorite, because Seattle came in with the idea of, if we beat San Francisco, we're in the thick of this thing still. They have the edge, essentially. Yeah, they're on the road, I get that, but San Francisco, Levi's, is not Lumen Field crowd-wise. Great crowd out there. Love the faithful. They show up.
How dare you say that, Sterling?
They show up. It's not to say it's a bad place to play, but it's not Lumen Field where the sound barrier isn't crazy and they're setting records. But what Seattle could do, come on the road, healthier on the ground, and make a statement, and they couldn't do it. They had 10 days off, and they got beat by 12. Philadelphia, I mean, come on. Every time you watch San Francisco play, they do something else to separate them from the second-place team or a team that might be ahead of them. They're just so good.
Yeah, so the 49ers, with the win, they now improve to 10-3. The Seahawks fall to 6-7. It's not official, but the NFC West is all but locked up for the San Francisco 49ers. And before the week is over, the football week, not the work week, but before the week is over, the 49ers could officially clinch a playoff spot. They would have already if the Raiders could have scored any points against the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings, quarterback change mid-game, by the way. Nick Mullins came in and let them do a field goal to win the game. So Minnesota beats Las Vegas 3-0. No, that's not a baseball score. That is a football score.
Both
3-0.
Stink.
Vikings beat the Raiders.
And the Niners lost to that Vikings team. Minus Kirk Cousins, but still.
It's a different team. Also, Justin Jefferson came back and then left with a chest injury.
Immediately got hurt again.
And had to be taken to the hospital for precautionary reasons. Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
I think everything's all right.
Okay.
It was precautionary.
Wow, I didn't know that.
But they won 3-0.
Man.
So the Niners' official playoff berth celebration will have to wait.
No, we're still popping bottles back here.
If the New York Giants beat Green Bay tomorrow night on Monday Night Football, the Niners will have officially clinched a playoff spot. But if it doesn't happen, which it probably won't, I would imagine Green Bay will beat the Giants. If it doesn't happen, it will happen next week.
Any of that? Do you take any of that into consideration? Like, if the Giants beat Green Bay, it's like, no,
no. I mean, just
win.
It would be a nice little bow on top to say, hey, the Niners officially going to the playoffs here in the 2024 postseason.
See, but here's the thing: is like in previous years, you would sit back and go, like, you want to clinch as fast as you can. Whereas this year, it feels like it doesn't matter when they clinch; it's going to be last game of the year at Levi's against the Rams. Whoever wins that game is the number 1 seed. It feels like you're not going to have a week off to rest your starters unless you have the 1 seed.
The Niners, I mean, obviously, goal 1 is make the playoffs. Goal 2 is win the division. Goal 3 is win the first seed in the NFC. The Niners making the playoffs. It's like, with this team, with this roster,
they've won 10 games.
You knew it was going to happen.
Yeah.
And it's going to happen. This doesn't even move the needle, really, for them at all. And at this point...
Which is so they beat Seattle twice.
You're getting to a point, Sterling, where obviously the division is a major check mark. But you're getting to a point with this 49ers team and how talented they are. This almost seems sacrilegious to say, where just winning the division is like, yeah, sure, whatever. Okay.
That's supposed to happen.
We expected that. Now go get the 1 seed. And if you're not going to get the 1 seed, you better beat Philadelphia in Philadelphia again. That's where the expectations are with this team. Again, they didn't play their best game. Nowhere near it. And they beat a division foe by 12 points.
Are we being overzealous by saying that? Are we taking...
I might be.
I mean, like, are we taking... sweeping Seattle for the 2nd straight season as for granted? It feels like we're not used to these things, but now it feels like it happens so often where it's like, yeah, if we don't sweep the entire NFC West, if we aren't the number 1 seed, we're going to complain about it and go, why didn't this happen? Where it's like, we beat Seattle twice this year, swept them for 2 consecutive years, beat them 5 times in a row.
How about this? With the win today, the 49ers have now 11 consecutive regular season wins against NFC West opponents. They have not lost in the division. They've won 11 consecutive games against the Seahawks, the Cardinals, and the Rams.
it feels weird saying where it's like, yeah.
That's how dominant
they
this team
should
is.
do that. Like, the Rams are a fine team. They lost in overtime today with an insane ending to that game.
Oh, my God, they should have won that game.
Punt return touchdown by the Ravens. Seattle is fine. And the Cardinals stink. Like, it feels like San Francisco should run roughshod over the entire division.
That's not been the case for all of those 11 wins against.
No.
It's what it is now.
But they've won what? They have 4 this year already. They had 8 last year. So it's been, the whole year. Right?
Yeah.
It's been over a whole year and a half span, they've won 11 games in a row.
That's what the NFC West is turning into right now. It's
bunch of garbage.
It's a race for second place.
The NFC West sucks. It's so bad.
The Rams honestly have been better than I expected, and they should have won today against a really good Ravens team on the road.
But they didn't because they're frauds.
They didn't.
Just like Seattle. The frauds.
Every time you call a Niners opponent fraudulent,
what happens?
You are like making the Niners victories over them worth less.
No. It's not saying they're worth less. It's saying that they're so bad. That's why we beat them by 20, 12 points, whatever it is.
I see. Okay.
They're frauds.
Okay. We got to talk about Brock Purdy because Brock Purdy was really, really good today. He finishes 19 for 27, 368 yards. As you said earlier here on Overtime on 95.7 the game, that's a career high, 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. It was a little bit of a slow start for Brock Purdy. In fact, he did not complete a pass on the first drive because they ran it twice and got into the end zone. And then I don't think he completed a pass on the second drive either. It was a 3-and-out on the second drive as well for the San Francisco 49ers. Purdy's first completion came with what? Let's see, 5 minutes and 40 seconds left in the first quarter. So the Niners, in terms of passing the ball, basically punted on the first 10 minutes of this ball game, but Purdy still puts up a career high in passing yards. Again, he finishes with 368, 2 touchdowns, did throw 1 interception. There were a couple of other wayward passes. I think a couple of them were miscommunication with his receiver that kind of resulted in passes that were nearly intercepted. But Brock Purdy just continues to pass every single test. And for the people, Sterling, that like to throw out, he's dink and dunk. He's got these elite yak receivers, yards after catch, that turn a simple screen pass or a slant over the middle into a 40-yard touchdown. You just need to point them to today's game tape because he was just lasering balls deep down the field time and time and time again to Kittle, to Ayuk.
What are the air yards, Mark? I have to know. What are the air yards?
I don't know what they are in total, but if we just think about that Deebo touchdown that made it, 14-10 San Francisco in the first half.
Probably 25 through the air, right?
Oh, it was more than that.
About 30?
It was, It was the 54-yard touchdown. And let's see, where do I...
It felt like every throw...
I lost it.
...was about 15 yards downfield. It didn't feel like there was any dink and dunk. There wasn't a system quarterback play. It felt like it was a home run every time he had the ball in his hands.
It was. So the pass to Deebo Samuel, which made it 14-10 49ers early in the second quarter, more about halfway through the second quarter. The 49ers were at their own 46, but Purdy released the ball from the 37-yard line.
Okay.
From the 37, and it was caught by Deebo Samuel at the 15-yard line. And this isn't even a straight line. It was kind of angled sideways. So if you are trying to, have to do Pythagorean theorem and, find the length of a triangle.
I don't do math, man.
But if you're just talking about how many yards down the field it traveled, 48 yards down the field, perfectly on the money to Deebo
49?
Samuel. Almost. I could have lied. Almost right on the money.
I want to be lied to.
49 yards. Perfectly right down the field to Deebo Samuel. He never broke stride. Again, that was the play where he ran past Jamal Adams. 48 yards on the money for Brock Purdy. Now, shout out to the offensive line on that play. They gave him all the time in the world that he could step into that throw and get every ounce of strength he needed behind it. But this idea that Brock Purdy is... only throwing for this many yards and this many touchdowns and is MVP candidate solely because his receivers and running backs and tight ends are yak kings, it's laughable, Sterling. It's laughable. And today, I think, was the number one piece of film, game tape you could show to those people making that argument because he just, time and time again, perfect throws 20, 30, 40 yards down the field, and he made this Seattle secondary look lost.
I'm so tired of people that clearly do not watch Brock Purdy play, that do not watch the San Francisco 49er football games, because it's so clear. Eric Mangini, who used to coach here for a little bit, and all respect to him, been successful for a portion of his career under Bill Belichick. Nowhere else after that, mind you. But it was so clear that him saying, oh, he's a product of the system. Some throws or the receivers have to dive and jump for all the throws that he makes. No.
What are you watching? What is he watching? Every throw is perfectly on target.
The only throw today that I sat back and said, wow, that wasn't great, wasn't even Brock Purdy's fault, because Ayuk, miscommunication, leads to a pick.
Yep.
The TV analyst, Greg Olson, said that's on Brandon Ayuk. Purdy's biggest mistake, which probably would have gave him 400 yards today, was the receiver's fault. It's so ridiculous, the fact that we sit back and I'm not going to criticize another media member or someone or other company because they got to make their money. The views get it. But it's so abundantly clear. People are making their money off of hating on Brock Purdy, which if you just watch the game, you just can't do. Everything this kid does is stellar. Most passes he makes are in the A tier of passes. Every game he wins, he has 10 of them now. He's been one of the main reasons they've won. And in the 3 losses they've had, minus the Vikings game probably, he's been one of the main reasons they're even in that game. The MVP conversation has transcended from, oh, Purdy's just a yak player, he's a dink and dunk, to let's discredit him every time he makes a play. When in fact, most of the plays this offense makes are because of Brock Purdy.
Yeah, and I think one thing that also gets lost in this, people are trying to use the fact that 49ers weapons consistently get yak. They try to use that against Brock Purdy. Like, they try to use that as an insult. They say, oh, well, he just drops it off to Deebo Samuel, who then turns upfield and runs 40 yards for a touchdown. Like, you do understand how yak works and how a quarterbacks can impact that. Like, Brock Purdy's accuracy, whether it's 10 yards down the field or 30 yards down the field, his accuracy is what allows his weapons to run after the catch. And that was on display again today. He leads Deebo Samuel on just a simple 10-yard crossing route. There was one, I think it was on 3rd and 9. Maybe it was 3rd and 11. And Deebo Samuel running an in from the left side at the sticks. And he throws it right as he comes out of the break and perfectly in stride. He hits him, just out in front of the numbers as Deebo is running from left to right. And what does that allow Deebo to do? He doesn't slow down as he makes the catch, and he's able to make a man miss and gain more yards. Like, this idea that the Niners' ability to have yards after the catch by Deebo, by Kittle, by McCaffrey, by Ayuk, the idea that that is a slight on Brock Purdy is a joke. It's a joke. Would you think that fewer yak yards, meaning less accuracy from your quarterback, Brock Purdy, would be better? Like, the reason that these receivers are able to run after the catch so much is because Brock Purdy is accurate. If he wasn't accurate, you're not getting those yards after the catch.
Why are we knocking down? Why are we discrediting a quarterback from doing his job well? If the offense asks him, hey, Brock, hit Deebo for a crosser for 10 yards and let him do the rest, and he scores a 65-yard touchdown pass, whatever it is, how is that a knock on Brock Purdy? Oh, he's not doing enough. Last time I checked, the score still says 7-0. Last time I checked, it's still a touchdown. Last time I checked, it's still a win. Now, I understand a lot of the argument for that is, well, look at Jimmy Garoppolo. Forget Jimmy. You watch Brock Purdy play. Their play styles are different. There's no happy feet. It feels like there isn't a worry of every time Jimmy G dropped back, where's the ball going to go? And I like Jimmy. He was a very successful quarterback here. But with Brock, it's like I would trust Brock Purdy with my life, with my offense, with my franchise, with my future daughter. He can have whatever he wants. Bring her back by 8. Brock will have her back by 7:30. He's trustworthy with the football. The turnovers he makes today was not his fault. It feels like, whether it's Shanahan or the offense itself, how are we knocking Brock Purdy for playing and having amazing stats, having 10-plus wins. When we look around the league, the Chiefs just lost because Mahomes can't get it done.
The Chiefs,
they're not a good team.
Their lead in the AFC West is one game over the Broncos now, by the way.
Let Russ cook for all I care. Not my problem anymore because Geno's not getting it done. Drew Lock's not getting it done. You know who should cook? Oh, Brock Purdy. Oh, wait. He does every single game, Mark. He cooks every defense. Had almost 370 yards today. Whether it's Philadelphia, Seattle twice, it doesn't matter. I have no fear. No matter the defense, Brock Purdy is going to have 300-plus yards, 2 touchdowns, and walk away out there flexing his guns for after a win. He's that good. I trust him with my entire life. Brock Purdy, lead me to Super Bowl. Okay. You are my guy. You're my quarterback for as long as you want to be.
That's my quarterback. No, I'm sick. I'm sick of the Brock Purdy conversation because it's just one the way you're trying to discredit him by saying that all he does is throw short to his Yak Kings. First of all, that's factually incorrect. That's just wrong. It's not what he does.
When did it go from Yak Bros to Yak Kings?
I just made it up.
Okay.
You kind of like it, though, right?
I mean, I might love it, actually.
Yak Kings. I mean, that's what they are.
'Tis the season, mind you.
There's no one better in the league than those guys at doing that. But saying that's all Brock Purdy does is factually incorrect. And in fact, he's the most accurate deep ball quarterback in the NFL. How about this? Completion percentage on throws 20-plus yards downfield. Guess who's number one?
Tell me.
Brock Purdy, 63.2%. Next best, C.J. Stroud, 58%.
He was bad today.
Jared Goff, 54%.
He
Dak
lost today.
Prescott, 53%. Hopefully he wins today. Tua Tagovailoa, 53%. Brock Purdy is lapping the rest of the field in deep ball completion percentage. So first of all, you saying that all he does is throw short and allow his weapons to run with the ball, that's a factually incorrect statement. And second of all, even if it were factually correct, guess what? Brock Purdy's accuracy is the reason they're able to run with the ball after the catch.
I don't think I need to say anything else.
You're factual. You're lying. You're just lying. You're wrong. But even if you were right, that does not help you make your case.
You're a liar.
Every single thing that we see, the stats, the eye test, what we're seeing from Brock Purdy, everything is pointing to one outcome. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Everything.
Is he one of?
I'm over it.
Is he one of? Or is he the best this year?
You can make the... I mean, he's going to win the MVP.
You can do that. Brock Purdy might be the best quarterback in the entire NFL this year right now. Over Mahomes.
No one's had a better season than him.
Mahomes, I get it's not just his fault. Tony was offsides, whatever. He's throwing his helmet out there. Tua's been good. You ask anybody, who do you want to be your quarterback? And I get those players have different traits and skill sets, mind you. Brock Purdy... what he's been able to do, you can put him in 31 other offenses. I guarantee you the stats might look different. He still is efficient, and they still win games. You put Brock Purdy in Carolina, 4 or 5 win team. It's just honest. Like, you put Brock Purdy in New Orleans, probably an 8, 9 win team. Put Brock Purdy in Kansas City. Again, not Mahomes' fault. The offense is different there. They're probably exactly where they are now. What Brock Purdy is doing is... and has been playing as, is the best quarterback in the entire league. It's probably Dak, Jalen Hurts, Tua, and Brock Purdy. And I don't think Brock Purdy's the last name in the standings there. I think he's at the top. He's beating everybody. Everybody. When you look around and say, wow, I'd rather have that quarterback, you know what they're talking about? It's Brock Purdy. It's really that simple. You can't discredit him by saying, well, the offense he's playing in, that's really what drives him. It's Kyle Shanahan and Christian McCaffrey. They play their part. So does Brock Purdy, and his part is being the best quarterback in the entire league right now.
Does the Niners system, does the weapons, does Kyle Shanahan, does that help Brock Purdy? Obviously. No one is arguing against that. What quarterback in NFL history has ever done it alone? None. We're seeing right now what that looks like in Kansas City. And by the way, Mahomes is not alone. He has maybe the best tight end in NFL history in Travis Kelce. But guess what? They only have a game lead over Russell Wilson and the Broncos, who started 1-5.
Russ.
Like, you cannot do it alone. I don't care how good you are. Football is the ultimate team game. You need help everywhere. everywhere. The best quarterbacks in NFL history, guess what? They're inextricably bound to the best offensive weapons in NFL history. Joe Montana, along with Jerry Rice. Like, I don't
know who that is. Who's that?
I mean, Tom Brady with Randy Moss for a time. Rob Gronkowski, who maybe is the guy that Travis Kelce is chasing for greatest tight end of all time. Certainly up there. If you are a great quarterback and are considered one of the best, you are bound to have great talent around you. It is not just what happens, it has to happen for you to be one of the best quarterbacks. You are not going to do it alone. And so the idea that Brock Purdy is only good because of the weapons that he has, would he look different if he didn't? Certainly. Yes, of course he would. But to act like anybody can do what Brock Purdy is doing is foolish. It is just straight foolish, and we need to come to grips with the fact that everybody was wrong about Brock Purdy. He was drafted as Mr. Irrelevant, 18 months ago. We were all wrong. That's okay.
I'm never wrong, Mark.
We missed it. That's fine. We were wrong. Let's move on.
And to give him more credit, while Seattle not playing their best football, Seattle not being the best team, coming into today, they ranked as the 12th best pass defense on the road. He wasn't beating a team that plays poorly on the road. He wasn't beating a pass defense that's banged up, mind you. He wasn't beating a pass defense that really hasn't been successful in other teams' homes. Seattle came in with 10 days to prep for this game. They should have, by all intents and purposes, played well. And Brock Purdy said, I'll score 3 touchdowns and put up 370 against you. A career high. Brock Purdy statistically had his best passing yard game ever through his short, 19-game career now, whatever it is. Brock Purdy is getting better at the right time. The Bird Gauntlet, we're 3 games into it. He's 3-0. There's no reason how we don't sit back and just sometimes... I'll be honest here. I'm just in awe of Brock Purdy. In my notes, I just go, oh my God, Brock. Did you see that? Like, in all caps, it's OMG, Brock Purdy. How did he do that? How do you evade that pressure? How do you make that throw? How do you get that touchdown? There's a play today where it didn't even count for a touchdown, but he runs all the way to his right, looks across his body, off one foot, finds Deebo Samuel for a near touchdown. And you're like, this guy is making, Brock Purdy is a playmaker. He isn't giving it to playmakers, although he is. He himself is also a playmaker. Not many other quarterbacks can say that. The Aiden O'Connells, the Josh Dobbs, the Jimmy G's, the Derek Carrs, guys who are getting paid incrementally more money than him are not playmakers. Brock Purdy's making the least amount of money for a starting quarterback, probably to ever win 10 games in a season. And he's likely going to win the NFC West. He's likely going to be in the NFC Championship game, barring injury. And dare I say, likely going to be playing in the Super Bowl if nothing catastrophic happens. A long way to go. If they win the Super Bowl on the contract he's on, he will likely be the cheapest quarterback to ever win a Super Bowl and likely the cheapest quarterback to ever win the MVP. Think of that. Literally the biggest bargain deal in the entire sports world. When you see Shohei Ohtani getting $700 million and a championship isn't even guaranteed. Brock Purdy is the biggest bargain in the entire sports world currently, and he's leading the best team in the entire country. I saw something. I know Shohei Ohtani's contract isn't evenly split for $70 million a year. He's got a lot of deferred money, but if we were just to pretend over the course of the 10 years or whatever where he's being paid the $700 million, over 2 games, he makes about what Brock Purdy will make this entire year. That, Brock Purdy, you said it, is the biggest bargain in sports, not just today, but ever. Yeah. Ever. Yeah. That's what he's playing like right now. And I'm glad you brought up that drive on the throw to Deebo where he went across his body. We talk a lot about Purdy, checkdowns versus throwing it deep down the field. I think throwing it deep down the field was on display all day today. Where he's also underrated is his athleticism and his ability to improvise on the run, on the move. And that drive, it was the second Niners drive of the second half. They got into the end zone, built a 2-score lead in the final few minutes of the third quarter.
It started with a Purdy scramble drill. He flushed left, stepped up just before he crosses the line of scrimmage, lays out a perfect deep ball down the left sideline to Brandon Ayuk for 45 yards. Then a nice Christian McCaffrey run led by Trent Williams, an epic block on the edge. And then what happens when they get down near the red zone? Brock Purdy, a blind play-action boot. And guess who's blitzing off the edge?
Jamal Fraudmus. Was that close?
Jamal Adams. Close enough.
I was going to say Fradams. That wouldn't make sense.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. But a blind play-action boot, which is a really dangerous play for a quarterback. If you have a
get lit up.
Blitzing linebacker, blitzing corner, blitzing safety coming off of the edge that you are rolling into, that you have the boot action into, it's called a blind PA boot for a reason, because you have your back to that side of the field, and as you fake the handoff, you just got to pray there's no one coming along that edge. Guess what was happening? Jamal Adams was coming along that edge, and Brock Purdy has the wherewithal to quickly turn his head around, see Jamal Adams bearing down on him, and he gives him a little juke step, buys him a half a second, and completes a pass. Like, there are very few quarterbacks in the NFL that have the ability to not only get a throw off, but evade a major hit. And he did that, Brock Purdy did, and he completed it to Charlie Warner. You get 3 yards, but like you avoided a sack, potentially a fumble. You avoided a big hit. You stayed alive. You gained positive yards. That's a win. Then 3rd and 5. Guess what? Another scramble drill and a broken play. Purdy rolls right. This is the play you're talking about. He rolls right, throws across his body back to the left or the middle of the field. Deebo catches it, makes a man miss, gets all the way down to the 1. The next play, kind of a Deebo jet sweep, and he scores a touchdown. But we focus so much on the air yards versus check down debate about Brock Purdy, Sterling. And this drive, I think, also shows a different area of Brock Purdy's game where he is so much more athletic than you think. And he's able to evade tacklers. He's able to extend plays. He's able to even use his legs and run and pick up yards, which he didn't do on this drive, but he did at other times and has throughout the season. Brock Purdy, we saw a complete game from him, and this is a rare game where he threw an interception and had a couple of other balls that could have been picked off. Now, they weren't always his fault, but just the reality. There were a couple of other balls that could have been picked off, but I was so impressed because he showed so many different things that he can do, which is rare for a quarterback of his age. He's a complete quarterback.
His stature.
Yes.
There are so many people, including myself, mind you, sometimes you get caught up in, well, can he actually see over the offensive line? It's a conversation, whether valid or not, that many quarterback coaches, many head coaches, many scouts have. How many times did we see Drew Brees doing this his entire career with New Orleans, trying to see over the offensive line, jumping with his eyes up like, guys, I can't see anybody. I'm trying to find a receiver. And it works. Sometimes you just need a quarterback that, yes, can get it done, be the system guy. And sometimes you have a quarterback like Brock Purdy that cannot just be a system guy, but also make plays. Yes, find your receivers open for 5 yards and let them do the work, but also evade pressure while not being the biggest guy, the fastest guy. He's a pretty quick guy, mind you, but he isn't the biggest, strongest, yet he's still making these plays. It's almost like you have taken Wes Welker and said, be a quarterback. You're like, he's that kind of player where you're like, how does someone this small making a 255 linebacker miss? How is someone this tiny making a 75-yard touchdown pass? It's just because these guys are ballers. They're gamers. They're playmakers.
Yeah, they really are. I thought it was a fantastic Brock Purdy game. In an otherwise kind of stop-and-go, herky-jerky game for the 49ers, they ultimately knock off the Seattle Seahawks 28-16. The Niners have now won 5 consecutive games and are 10-3 on the season. All right, time for a break here on Overtime. We got a couple of callers on hold. Dre and Mitchell, I see you. We'll get you on the other side. If you want to join the show, 888-957-9570. That's also the Comcast Business text line. And I'm keeping an eye on the Twitch and YouTube chats. YouTube, I see you, Pierce, Queens of Noise, Bucko Sports, a couple of others. I see you. Keep them coming on YouTube. It's Grandy and Sterling with you on Overtime as we continue coming up next right here on 95.7 The Game.
Office and grab some stamps.
Done.
And drop off these packages.
Sure thing, honey.
made me think of that play. Of course, Julian Love was tasked with guarding George Kittle, and kind of similar to Jamal Adams trying to defend Deebo Samuel on that 54-yard touchdown, Julian Love realized he was beat. George Kittle was running right past him. So what does Julian Love, the corner, do? Who had a decent game, had the interception earlier in the game. He's, you know what? Kittle's running past me. I'm going to grab him and slow him down. And hopefully I'll take the penalty. Hopefully it results in an incomplete pass. Well, guess what? George Kittle ran right through him, caught the pass anyway, went for a touchdown. Niners put up their 4th touchdown of the game, and they go on to win the game. But that's kind of what the Niners do to you.
There's no way to stop them.
Even if you hold them, you do something illegal, Sterling, they're still good enough. They're still
some illegal.
They're still good enough to beat you anyways, and that's what Kittle did. Ran right through the illegal holding.
You can't tackle them. You can barely score on them, and you can't stop them from scoring on you. This is the most complete team in the entire league. Almost every player is just a dog, and I'm not talking a DOG. I'm talking a DAWG, a dog. Juwan Jennings, Brandon Ayuk, all these guys block. All these guys want to just run right through you. All these guys can be a little bit finesse if they need to. All of these players, all of the stars, even some of the bench players, Jair Brown is 2nd pick of the year. Fred Warner getting involved on plays, getting the game-sealing pick, pitching it back to Dre Greenlaw. Then you have Lenore out there taking shots at DK Metcalf. This team is... Well, yes, there's finesse. They're so physical. It feels like on every front, every play, every way. However you want to look at football itself, they are the leader in every play. It feels like you want to put San Francisco in the upper echelon of every single category with the stats, with the playmakers. This team just feels like they're going to come in, they're going to run through you, knock you down, and if they even want to, they will spit on you as they leave. They're just a nasty, dirty, grindy kind of team, and you're like, they're going to kill us, and we're going to take it. They're just that good.
Yeah, we got to talk about the end of the game when Fred Warner and DK Metcalf got into it, and then Diamador Lenore got involved in that as well. Diamador Lenore has taken to Twitter or X. We will get to that in just a little bit, but first, let's run through some of the calls. Yeah, it's getting a little spicy between the Niners and the Seahawks.
You're sitting back saying, go Ducks. You already got my Sooner quarterback. Now Lenore's out there taking shots, too. I love it.
Dylan Gabriel, the newest Oregon Duck.
Pain!
A year from now at the Heisman ceremony.
All right.
You know it.
How's Bo Nix playing, Mark?
No comment. All right, let's go to the phones here. It's overtime on 95-7 the game. 49ers beat the Seahawks 28-16. 5 consecutive wins now for the 49ers. That 3-game losing streak is a thing of the past. Up first is Dre in Lemoore. Dre, what's up? You're on overtime with Grandy and Sterling. How you doing today, Dre?
I'm doing freaking fantastic. Our Niners did it again, guys.
Yes, sir.
Hey, I want to give a shout-out to that offensive line. Brock did take some sacks, but he didn't panic. He came back strong. And I want to give some love to our DBs. When Ward went out, they stepped it up. They still played a great game. Now, what you guys were saying about Purdy, you know what? You said Garoppolo don't matter. Garoppolo does matter because our receivers never had that kind of yard because Garoppolo does not know how to hit a receiver in stride continually. Purdy hits him in stride, whether he's going long, whether he's going short. Shanahan can open up the playbook for Purdy, and that makes the rest of the NFL scared. They want to minimize him. Well, guess what? He's maximizing his skills, and the 49ers are going to maximize their skills all the way to the Super Bowl. Go, Purdy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, good call, Dre. I will say Garoppolo's strength, while it wasn't necessarily deep ball accuracy, he was very accurate within, 10 yards of the line of scrimmage.
He's a timing kind of player.
Timing, and would often hit his receivers in stride, in motion. Maybe not quite as often.
10 yards out, though.
Yeah. But
not like Purdy, who's 45 yards downfield.
But, I mean, the Yak Boys, slogan.
Oh, Yak Kings.
Yak Kings.
Yak Kings.
It began with Garoppolo as the quarterback.
Yeah.
That was a thing even with that offense, so I'm not sure I'd go as far as Dre is saying that wasn't the case with Jimmy Garoppolo. What I will agree with Dre on, Sterling, is the fact that Brock Purdy has earned the trust of Kyle Shanahan, and as a result, the playbook is wide open now. Everything is on the table with Brock Purdy. That was never the case with Jimmy Garoppolo. Never. Not Not even for a stretch of game. Never. It was not on the table with Jimmy Garoppolo. And Brock Purdy had earned that trust even at the end of last regular season. Like, he earned it really quickly.
He may have earned it that first game against Miami.
Maybe
that's too soon, but even when he played then in that game, his first game really ever, right? I think everyone sat back and said, this kid's got something. I don't know what that something is or how limited that is, but he's got something else that someone else doesn't have. He has this next, if you want to call it a gear or a level, it just feels like, even if you want to call it the it factor, Brock Purdy has the it factor. Is that quantifiable? With Jimmy G, it wasn't really. They were winning a lot of games, and you're like, how are they doing this? Because doesn't have the best arm, isn't the most accurate quarterback. They're not pushing the ball downfield. With Brock, it's like, he is the most accurate. They are pushing the ball downfield. He's doing everything right for 70% of his plays, and it feels like it's easier to see now how they're winning in previous years, because you just look to the quarterback and say, yeah, that makes sense. The quarterback is the leading factor into how much they win. Then you say, oh, then there's CMC. Oh, then there's Deebo. Oh, then there's Ayuk. Oh, can't forget George Kittle. Like, it feels like maybe the national media doesn't see it that way, but here in the Bay, Niner fans, they sit back and they go, yeah, Brock Purdy's doing his thing. And he is one of the best in the entire game right now.
Yeah, he's playing out of his mind. He was great again today. A career-high passing yards, 368. He threw for 2 touchdowns, did have 1 interception, but as you mentioned earlier, I think was more of a miscommunication with Brandon Ayuk. Ayuk kind of ran a comeback route, and he, after cutting, he ran straight back where he came from, while Purdy, thinking he was going to cut a little bit more to the inside, delivered the ball to the inside, and as a result, it was a diving attempt for Ayuk. It tipped off his hands and was intercepted. So kind of unfortunate there for Brock Purdy, but still, even with the interception, very, very good, 19 for 27, career-high passing yards with 368 and 2 touchdowns for Brock Purdy. Multiple receivers over 100 yards. Deebo Samuel, who now has 5 touchdowns in his last 2 games, had 149 receiving yards. Brandon Ayuk, 126 receiving yards. He's now over 1,000 for the first time, or for the second consecutive season. And let me ask you a bit of trivia, Sterling. Do you know the last 49ers wide receiver to have consecutive 1,000-yard receiving seasons? Ayuk has done it now last year and this year.
So not tight ends, just
not
receivers.
Tight ends, just receivers.
I feel like Anquan Bolden might be an underrated one, but my heart just says Terrell Owens.
It is.
Come on.
Anquan Bolden.
Ow! Mark, I'm too good. Mark.
Well, you kind of went away from it.
I mean, I feel like Anquan Bolden's an underrated pick, but I'll go with TL because he was so good.
So you didn't pick Anquan Bolden.
Okay, Mark, if you want to get all semantics about it, you didn't actually pick him. I said his name. People would have said Arnaz Battle, Josh Morgan.
I would have said Brandon Lloyd.
Michael Crabtree. Hey, Lloyd was good for a while here, though.
He was. But yeah, Anquan Bolden in 2013 and 2014, the last Niners wide receiver with consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. Brandon Ayuk now joins that list. A very good day for Brandon Ayuk, despite the fact that he did not get into the end zone today.
He almost did. He almost did. He fumbled the ball.
Yeah, he had scored in 4 consecutive games. Did not today. So that streak comes to an end for Ayuk. But now consecutive 1,000-yard seasons for Brandon Ayuk. He was over 100 yards, as was Deebo Samuel today through the air. All right, back to the phones here on Overtime on 95.7 The Game. It's Grandy and Sterling with you. Up next is Mitchell. Mitchell, what's up? You're on Overtime reacting to this Niners win. What'd you think of that Niner game today, Mitchell?
Great game. Then running over full cylinders. Happy holiday, you guys. Thanks for taking my call. It's good to see Bosa get a sack. I always look for that first thing I check out. It's great to see on TV. But I know Purdy is going to be up there with the MVP talk. But I know it's impossible. Ayuk, McCaffrey, Deebo, there's nothing these guys can do wrong. Especially Deebo. He's not an instant run anymore. I mean, it's incredible. This team is loaded. Up front, defensive line, and offensive weapons. And I don't want to just talk about Purdy's assistant quarterback. He's a pretty good quarterback. And he's just going to get better. I mean, you got to love it. I've never seen a team with so many weapons. And plus the tight end. I mean, how can you forget Kittle?
Yeah, I mean, you can't forget Kittle. He's really good as well. Mitch, good call. Appreciate it.
Do you think Purdy's MVP odds are better today than they were coming into the game? Do they improve?
I don't think any book is going to release updated MVP odds until the Sunday night game ends.
They want to see Dak and Jalen?
Exactly, because those are probably, Purdy, Dak, and Jalen are probably 1, 2, and 3 in most people's eyes, right?
Would it matter actually how they played after what Purdy did today? Like, Purdy should leave this week still being the favorite, no?
I mean, if Dak throws for 405 touchdowns, that's probably going to make an impact. Honestly, if I were an MVP voter...
You'd vote Jared Goff. You wanted to.
That was my preseason dark horse.
It looked good. It looked good to begin the year.
Lions lost today. That's also a big help for the 49ers.
Frauds.
If they don't catch the Eagles for the 1 seed, you want the 2, obviously, so you don't have to go to Detroit potentially in the divisional round.
You know what sting? If they did knock off the Eagles for the 1 seed, but somehow Dallas ended up getting it, I think I'd cry.
That would be kind of funny.
I'd be so angry.
But if I were to vote today, and again, there's a big Sunday night game, and we'll keep you updated here while we're on the air about the Eagles and the Cowboys, because obviously implications for the Niners all over the place. But if I were to vote right now before the Sunday night game, I think my poll, number 1 would be Purdy, and number 2 would be Dak. Dak has been really good this year.
He's been good. Mine would be Purdy, McCaffrey, Deebo, Jake Moody's in there somewhere.
Where's Trent Williams? He's got to be 5th, right?
I don't know. Dak has been really good this year. Lamar Jackson's really certainly in there. Am I crazy? I was having a conversation with Pierce Evans on the YouTube chat during the break. Lamar Jackson isn't even on my MVP radar. Really? Not at all. I get he's going to give this team fits on Christmas Day. The numbers aren't that good. Lamar Jackson, a tick under 3,000 passing yards. That's bottom half of the league. But who does he have? Zay Flowers no longer has Jr. Mark Andrews. Rashad Bateman. Odell Beckham Jr. Isaiah Likely's a good tight end as well. 17th most passing yards, 19th most passing touchdowns. What's the rushing attack look like? He's probably one across the board for rushing quarterbacks. Probably, but it's not like his MVP year when he rushed for 1,200 yards. He's at 644 through 13 games. His skill set is unlike anybody else in the entire league. Anybody. You're right. And if there is a quarterback that could beat this defense, it is Lamar Jackson. Which is why I ask, I could very well be crazy. I don't know why. He's just not popping up in my radar. I watch him, and he's fun to... He just isn't popping to me like an MVP candidate. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just totally missing something. I just don't feel it this year from Lamar Jackson. I don't think he gets the love because, again, he's not throwing for a massive amount of yards. He's not throwing for 40, 30 touchdown passes plus this year. I think a lot of what he does, take today, they scored, 38 points, and one of those was a punt return against the Rams. They had to win in overtime. It feels like the Ravens games are much more grinded out kind of games. Now, mind you, they just crushed Seattle to start their downfall or continue their downfall with their initial 2-game losing streak. Now they've lost 4 games in a row, and 2 of those have been against San Francisco. It feels like the Seahawks have just been in a complete downfall, and the Ravens technically started that. They just crushed them. They did. And then I understand I beat them twice. But Lamar Jackson's MVP year, 2019. Yeah, he was great. He ran for 1,200 yards, and obviously that was a lot of the discussion. Is that the record still for quarterbacks? Probably. How crazy of a runner he was. He threw for 36 touchdowns that year. Yep. He's thrown for 16 this year. That's not even close. And he's thrown for already the same amount of interceptions as he did at that 4 year games left now? Yeah, he's played now 13 games. Only 4 games left in the season. Well, maybe 3 more games after that. Better be. My life without football is a mess, Mark. I can't. But anyways, Lamar Jackson not on my MVP radar right now. A lot of it rests on this game tonight. So does it for the San Francisco 49ers. I don't even care what happens tonight. Brock Purdy's the MVP. You care what happens. I care who wins and loses. I don't care who the MVP is after tonight. It's not going to be like, oh, Dak has it now. I'm going to be like, yeah, it's still Brock Purdy's. Oh, Jalen Hurts. Wow. I'm like, yeah, you lost to Brock Purdy last week. I'll tell you what. You hope that when the updated MVP odds come out tomorrow morning, you hope that it's Dak number 1 because that means the Cowboys won today. No, I hope it's Brock Purdy number 1, then Dak number 2. Who cares about MVP odds? I do. Okay, fair enough. That being said, if it's not Brock Purdy, I'm going to throw hands. Like, hey, DraftKings, frauds.
Noted. I'm going to write it down.
I'm going to drive all the way to the DraftKings HQ and throw hands with the CEO.
Wherever that is. Not in this state, that's for sure. All right, let's keep going on the phones here. 888-957-9570. Up next is Miles in Fort Mason. Miles, what's up? You're on Overtime with Grandy and Sterling, reacting to this Niners win 28-16 over the Seahawks. Miles, what'd you think?
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me on. Obviously thrilled with the win. And I think for the team overall, I was impressed with the professionalism to come off such an emotionally exhausting win over Philadelphia last week and then refocus to Seattle, even though it's at home. Still Gino went down, tough team. So just thought that showed well on us to move forward. And then, Brock is the best quarterback since Steve Young, and it's not even close. Part of that, too, is that, Niners between Young and where they are now didn't have that great of quarterbacks, but his precision with accuracy, getting away, not being, the 4-3 guy to run super fast, but just his ability to avoid hits in the pocket, extend plays, that TD pass to Deebo that just was the picture-perfect pass. Unbelievable. And then so next, Deebo, oh, my God. Show me a football field where that guy is not the most talented player on it. That guy is insane. So we are so lucky to have him as well. And then, this season is quickly evolving into where, okay, obviously we're a good team. Now it's just going to become about, okay, are you guys going to win the Super Bowl, to where it gets stressful, And so it's the highest of standards that we're judging the team against now. So, on to next week, Arizona, let's do it. But thanks for having me on, guys. Take care.
Yeah, good call, Miles. Appreciate you tuning into Overtime here on 95.7 The Game. You can give us a call if you want to hop in on the conversation. 888-957-9570. Yeah, Deebo Samuel is putting together a really, really awesome season. And do you remember what he said in training camp just before the preseason, just before the season started? I forgot who asked the question, but was asking about last season's Deebo Samuel. And if you remember to the, what was the 2022 offseason when Deebo Samuel held out, went through all the social media drama where he unfollowed the Niners on Instagram or on Twitter or whatever the case was, and he demanded a trade per his agent or whatever the case was. And you're thinking, things are rough. Like Deebo Samuel does not want to be a Niner anymore. That distraction, that offseason, we know how it ended. He signed. He's still a Niner. But that offseason, the distraction of that offseason, what Deebo said was, as a result, he kind of came into camp and into the season out of shape and wasn't really ready. And as a result, he was nowhere near as good last year in 2022 as he was in 2021 when he was an all-pro and like the most talked about, most explosive offensive weapon, most unique offensive weapon in the NFL. And he said, leading into this season, I am never going to put anything on tape again like I did in 2022. And Deebo Samuel, we talked about him backing up the trash talk in Philadelphia.
Oh, yeah.
He's backing up that comment he made about himself before this season began. He's doing it right now. Again, now 5 touchdowns in his last 2 games over a 6-quarter stretch. He had 5 touchdowns over a 6-quarter stretch spanning last week and this week. He is looking like the all-pro Deebo that we grew to love in 2021. He was still good last year. He just set an incredibly high bar for himself the year prior. It seems like Deebo Samuel is back to that 2021 version of himself.
This year, Deebo Samuel already has more receiving yards, more touchdowns than he had all of last year. He has, I believe, less receptions as well. Deebo Samuel through what has it been, 11 games for him, 10 games for him now because of the injury against Cleveland and Minnesota. He is already having a better year than he had last year when he played 13, 14 games. Deebo Samuel this year is already a better player through 4 or 5 less games than he was last year. He looks like an all-pro again. He looks like a Pro Bowler again in a league that's seeing Justin Jefferson get hurt, a Keenan Allen lose his quarterback, and really a league that doesn't have a player like Deebo Samuel. He stands clearly above the rest. Other teams try to mimic Deebo Samuel, the Chiefs and Kadarius Toney, the Giants and Wan'Dale Robinson. They can't do it. There is nobody in the entire league like Deebo Samuel. He will run through you, he'll run by you, and he is so deceptively fast where he'll be jogging like, oh, this guy's pretty quick, and then
boom,
he's gone. And you're like, how did he do that? This guy who, I'll be honest with you, he's pretty thick in the trunk. He shouldn't be that fast. This man should not be running that fast. If I saw Deebo Samuel running at me, I would be horrified. Jamal Adams or not, I'd be horrified. This man is thick. He is scary. And he has blazing speed where you're like, someone this big should not be able to do what he does. That physical, that aware of how physical he actually is, and the energy he brings. You noticed when he wasn't on the field, and when you notice when he's on the field. His absence is clear against the Vikings. It was so clear. There is no Deebo. They need Deebo. The minute he walked on the field with that boombox on his game he returned on, you were like, yep, we got it. It's over.
Back.
He's here. And they haven't lost a game since. You want to know why? What he brings is just unlike any other player in the entire league.
Yep, he's been incredible, and he's a big reason why the Niners are riding another 5-game winning streak. And today, he broke an NFL record, Sterling.
Uh-oh. More stats?
I'll give it to you on the other side, because we got to hit a break here on Overtime on 95.7 The Game. But yeah, Deebo Samuel broke an NFL record. I will tell you what that record is coming up on the other side. And by the way, the Sunday night game between the Cowboys and the Eagles, if the Cowboys win tonight, the Niners will officially be the number 1 seed because they have the tiebreaker over the Philadelphia Eagles. The Cowboys are on the edge of the red zone. They are driving as we speak. But a Deebo record-breaking game today. That statistic is coming up on the other side as Overtime continues with Grandy and Sterling right here on 95.7 The Game.
So, how's your research going?
Surprising. After I figured out the top-rated TVs and our price...
play. It's Greenlaw who has it. Greenlaw still on his feet. Hat flies from an official.
The sideline in San Francisco is going bananas, telling them to get down.
I mean...
Now back to Overtime with Sterling Bennett and Mark Grandy on 95.7 The Game.
Not the sideline telling Dre Greenlaw to go down, or Sterling Bennett in the 95.7 The Game studio screaming, go down, go down, go down.
It was more of a, what are you doing? Get on the ground. Get down right now. You have to go down. Get on the ground.
In case you missed it, that was the final really meaningful play of the game. The 49ers up by 12. The Seahawks had, I think, like a 4th and 13 after a sack. And Chase Young got a hand on the arm of Drew Lock as he released a deep shot. It was kind of a dead duck in a very underthrown, ultimately intercepted by Fred Warner.
Dead duck?
I'm ignoring that. Who, by the way, should have just let the ball fall incomplete because it was 4th and 13.
You lost some those stats.
You lost some field possession.
Pad those stats.
Fred Warner now what? Four interceptions?
Year, yeah.
It's rare for a linebacker.
What is it? 4 picks and 3 forced fumbles?
Last time I checked, it was the only player in the NFL to have at least 3 of each. But that was a few weeks ago, so maybe there's someone else that has joined that list.
Should Fred be in the DPOY conversation, or was that 3-game stretch too poor play?
I think after was it the Tampa Bay game?
Yeah.
I think he was in it, but I think he's probably slipped out of it a little bit.
Haters.
You're right. Niners should get every single award.
Yes, they should.
They should be top 5 in MVP.
Okay.
They should be top 5 in DPOY.
Let's be honest here. Right now, you can argue they should have at least one player in every single award category. Shanahan, Coach of the Year. Purdy should be in the MVP conversation.
Ronnie Bell, Offensive Rookie of the Year, for sure.
Why not? Jair Brown's got 2 picks. Defense Rookie of the Year. Fred Warner, DPOY. Chris McCaffrey, Offensive Player of the Year. Deebo Samuel, Receiver of the Year. Keep going. George Kittle, Tight End of the Year.
There's a very real possibility that Brock Purdy wins MVP and Christian McCaffrey wins Offensive Player of the Year. Although it's probably going to go to Tyreek Hill because he's probably going to break 2,000 receiving yards.
I don't like Tyreek.
You're going to have like 2 legendary seasons, Tyreek Hill and Christian McCaffrey, and it's a shame that one of them is not going to get Offensive Player of the Year.
They could settle it how they used to do in the Old West. A good old-fashioned duel. Is everyone walk 10 paces, turn around, whoever wins, that's where you call it right there.
Yeah. But anyway, that highlight you heard from Fox with Kevin Burkhardt, it was an interception that sealed the game. Fred Warner, after picking it off, being tackled by DK Metcalf, and before he goes down, pitches the ball to Dre Greenlaw for some reason. Could you imagine if
they fumbled it?
They fumbled the pitch
Touchdown.
and the Seahawks, even if they just fell on, they're in the red zone at that point, and there's still like 5 minutes left. Like they could have gotten a touchdown and then still had plenty of time to get a stop. Who knows? Not the best decision by Fred Warner. It worked out. Dre Greenlaw easily caught it, no issues, and then kind of ran in circles for a while, evaded a couple of the tacklers, then eventually went down. But as Dre Greenlaw's kind of running around with the chicken with his head cut off, you have Fred Warner and DK Metcalf kind of going at it because after Fred Warner pitched the ball, DK still tackled him, kind of threw him to the ground. Then Fred Warner got up and got in his face. And then Deommodore Lenoir came over and shoved DK Metcalf. As a result, both DK Metcalf and Deommodore Lenoir got ejected.
Where was Seattle's security guard this week, huh? Where's their Dom DeSandro? What they should do is lock Warner and Metcalf in the octagon and put Dom DeSandro as the ref and say, go at it, boys. Have fun. That's what they should do. That's what I would do. That's how you serve your 1-week suspension. You have to ref a UFC fight.
In the octagon.
Warner and Metcalf duking it out in the octagon.
But anyways, after and it was kind of a bigger scrum after that, and benches kind of cleared, and they're all around midfield kind of pushing and shoving.
To be fair, Warner didn't do much.
No, he
just stood there and
showed great restraint. Obviously, there was the initial kind of shove he gave after DK Metcalf threw him to the ground.
He pushed him in the back of the helmet to the ground.
And then DK Metcalf gets back up and like starts pushing him, and Fred Warner's just like kind of standing there looking at him.
He grabbed his helmet, double-fisted his helmet. That sounded weird, sorry. But he grabbed his helmet and was in his face, and Warner's like, what are you going to do about it?
I'm sure he was saying some things that we can't repeat here on the air. Probably would be my guess.
Past 11 o'clock, everything's free, Mark.
We'll stay on the air until then, huh?
Red light district, here I come.
But anyway, after that, Deommodore Lenoir and DK Metcalf get ejected.
Right.
And you need the context of what happened in this game because Deommodore Lenoir did a great job on DK Metcalf.
He was great.
So when Mooney Ward goes out with the injury on the Niners' first defensive drive, and by the way, Mooney Ward has tweeted, seems like he's fine. Again, he was on the sideline for really the entire game with his helmet and pads.
Words we also can't say, mind you.
His tweet?
Yes.
Yeah, we cannot. Head on to Twitter, search Mooney Ward, you'll find it. We can't repeat it, but it seems like he's okay. He maybe if it was a closer game, a scarier game, he could have come back in the game. Who knows? Seems like he's fine. But as a result, Deommodore Lenoir was kind of tasked with checking DK Metcalf for the whole game. After originally the Niners put Ambry Thomas on him, that resulted in the touchdown catch, the 31-yard touchdown by DK Metcalf. The Niners quickly adjusted, and Demo kind of followed him the rest of the game. And guess what? DK Metcalf did not have another catch. He had 2 catches in the first quarter. They were both on that first drive, and he did not have another one after that. So Deommodore Lenoir locked him down. And even one interception that Deommodore Lenoir had got taken away because Nick Bosa was offside. So there was another great play that Demo made on DK Metcalf that didn't count. Long story short, Deommodore Lenoir locked up DK Metcalf. And that was a big reason why I think Lenoir was feeling good about himself and gotten into that scrum and shoved DK Metcalf. But Deommodore Lenoir also took to Twitter.
Uh-oh.
And he had some words for DK Metcalf.
Were they bad words?
No, actually, I can repeat all of these.
Wow,
words.
okay.
Deommodore Lenoir said, quote, "I would want to fight too if I got done like that. Hashtag hyena strap season check the tape. I promise you a bunch of teach tape." I imagine he meant teaching tape. Like, you watch this, DK, you're going to learn some things because I shut you down. Deommodore Lenoir's nickname is Hyena, so hyena strap season.
Did he give himself a nickname?
I don't know where it came from.
You know, it would have been the ultimate, like, get off my field if he just kept yelling, hyena, hyena, hyena at DK, and DK's like, what's going on, man? You got to chill out. That'd be awesome. DK Metcalf this year, on 14 targets against the Niners, only has 5 catches.
It's pretty good.
For 84 yards and 1 touchdown. And the biggest catch, obviously, being his touchdown catch in this game. DK Metcalf has done nothing against this defense. Nothing. Whether it's Mooney Ward or Lenoir, the one big play comes against Ambry Thomas. They took away this team's best offensive weapon.
It was a pretty epic catch. And toe tap.
The coverage wasn't even that bad.
It wasn't.
Like, he made a great play. It's the only great play he's made against this team the entire year. And they may never see him again. This could be it. Their season could be done. 6-7, under 500 on the outside looking in.
They're not going to the playoffs.
You don't think so?
No.
They have Philadelphia next week at home. Imagine if the Dallas Cowboys beat Philadelphia and Seattle beats Philadelphia.
Well, let's look at the standings here. Are
we Seahawks fans next week? Might be.
Yeah, you have to be. Unfortunately, I mean,
Pete Carroll,
the NFC West is wrapped up. You don't.
Carroll.
I mean, not officially. I don't want to say anything that isn't actually true.
They stink.
But the Niners are going to win the NFC West. Like, it's going to happen. So Seahawks getting a win that you might not have expected is not going to impact you in winning the division. You're absolutely rooting for the Seahawks to beat the Eagles. Whether or not the Eagles win or lose tonight, you're absolutely rooting for that to happen. So strap in. But right now, the Seahawks, 6-7. They are technically behind the Rams because the Rams have the head-to-head.
They swept them, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
The Rams are 6-7. The Seahawks are 6-7. Those are second and third place teams in the NFC West. So both of those teams are looking on the outside in. The 7th place team, the last playoff team in the NFC, is the Green Bay Packers at 6-6. If you look at their schedule, they're probably going to rack up a few more wins. I don't think the Rams or the Seahawks are making the playoffs.
Good. They both stink. They're not good. The Packers are
not
right.
bad. They're all right.
They're all right. The Rams they are a one-sided offensive team that if Matthew Stafford's not having his best game, they're going to lose. The Seahawks can't get a single thing on either side of the ball going. I don't trust either one of those teams. They're not going to win a playoff game, and I don't think either one of those teams could make it to the playoffs. I think I would pick the Rams over Seattle to go, not because they have a tiebreaker. It just feels like that Seattle right now has no momentum. They're barely staying afloat, and they're struggling doing so. And they could lose, their 5th game in a row next week against Philadelphia and be 6-8. 6-8, whereas the Rams could win a game or two still and be 8-9-10 the year. This feels like that the NFC West is Niners, a gigantic chasm, and then maybe one team squeaks in, and I don't think it's going to be Seattle.
They might. The way that might work is Minnesota continues to struggle. They eked out a win today. They scored 3 points and won. But they went away from Josh Dobbs to Nick Mullins. It does not seem great in Minnesota. So if that is a team that loses a handful of games moving forward, either the Rams or the Seahawks could sneak in. But there's a lot of teams fighting for the last couple of spots. You have Minnesota 7-6, Green Bay 6-6. They play tomorrow night. Rams, Seahawks, Falcons, and Saints all 6-7. Bears 5-8. That's probably not going to matter.
If
but
Derek
you have
Carr goes to the playoffs.
You have 4 6-7 teams. You have Green Bay 6-6. One of those 5 teams is going to make the playoffs. So it's possible for Seattle and Los Angeles. I don't think that's going to happen.
Not the way they're playing now, and not the way DK Metcalf is acting. You know, Lori Matthews, our girl from out there in Phoenix, Arizona.
Lori. What's up, Lori?
Said DK's a big crybaby, and she's right. Now, I'm sure she saw my tweet and can't repeat that on there now either. But DK Metcalf, for as big as he is, what is he, 6'4", 6'5", about 220, right? This man is a massive ball of testosterone. This man is probably on roids, something. He looks like this generation's like the vegan jacked version of Dennis Rodman. He is the biggest crybaby in the entire NFL.
Well, he's like Deebo Samuel, but give him 4 more inches.
But not even close to being as good. He's not a physical presence. He cries all the time. He needs to go put that pacifier mouthpiece he used to wear back in his mouth. He's crying like a baby. Wah, wah. Earlier this year alone, he injured Akella Weatherspoon on a cheap shot. Now he's out there grabbing All-Pro Fred's face mask because he's getting shut down by Lenore, who was like 5 inches shorter than him. Like, this man has roid rage. He's crazy, and he's not that good. There are times this year Seahawks fans are like, DK is better than Deebo. Well, because Deebo has a subpar year, which wasn't even that bad. Deebo Samuel is miles ahead of DK Metcalf. And here's the thing. DK didn't do anything against San Francisco on Thanksgiving. Then comes out against Dallas and scores 3 touchdowns. Oh, he's back. The big baby's back. Oh, my goodness. He's been fed. He got the little peas and carrots from the Gerber baby out there. He got fed. Oh, comes back to San Francisco, does nothing again. He's a big baby.
Well, and, I mean, you look at what this Niners secondary was in this game, and we've been talking about it for a couple of weeks, ever since the Talanoa Hufanga injury. At least you got your number 1 corner, Mooney Ward, to fall back on, right?
Yeah, not anymore.
But even, with him on the field, which wasn't the case today, but with him there, you're still playing Ambry Thomas opposite him. You're playing a rookie in Jair Brown at safety. Like, this is still an inexperienced, unproven defensive secondary. Now today, you lose your go-to legit number 1, the guy you just plaster against the wide receiver 1 of the opposing team. You lose him for this entire game. And again, if you're just joining us, does not seem like any sort of major injury. He seems totally fine. At this point, I feel like I would be surprised if he does not play next week against the Arizona Cardinals. But you lose him. And what does that mean? It means you have to move Diamador Lenore, who's proven to be reliable in the slot, to a corner spot. He becomes your de facto number 1 go-to corner. He's the guy you matched up with DK Metcalf for the rest of the game and did a great job. But that means Isaiah Oliver, who previously got benched, has to come in and play the slot corner spot, the nickel corner spot, and wasn't great, but didn't have any major mistakes that hurt the Niners big time. You still have Jair Brown at safety. You have Ambry Thomas. Like, this was the most depleted the Niners secondary has been in a really long time, meaning you're having to turn to a group of youngsters and veterans that have previously failed in these roles, and they passed with flying colors again tonight. Again, Drew Lock was okay. He was fine, probably better than I expected, but the passing game wasn't, for Seattle, like a big enough factor to where you got worried by that group. I was really impressed by that group, and you're right. DK Metcalf has struggled to do much of anything against the Niners recently, but today was maybe the most impressive considering just who you had out there defensively to line up against them. People who you wouldn't have a ton of confidence in, like otherwise, and they did a great job.
It feels like And you have to give Steve Wilks credit. Steve Wilks has been great ever since the bye week, whether it's on the sideline or whatever it is. Like, whatever he's dialing up, if it doesn't work the first time, he's going to make the adjustment, make the change. And it just feels like he's in his bag as much as Kyle might be. Like, it doesn't matter the offense they play. While maybe Isaiah Oliver isn't in this group, I have trust in 99% of the defense. Not even secondary played today. Nick Bosa and Gregory were playing on the inside on some plays. Bosa's sack, he was lined up across from the center. Patient, then boom, gets a sack, and he's pointing there like, no way, I got the sack. Make sure that's a sack on my record book.
That was funny.
Like, Nick, like, what Steve Wilks is doing, he's pressing all the right buttons, whether it's in the secondary, whether it's on the defensive line, in the linebacking core. Like, D. Winters got snaps today, and I didn't even notice it. Like, and I get it, I wouldn't want that all the time, but it's just to say how well they're playing together. It's just really impressive what Steve Wilks has done. But even going forward back to the secondary, Jaya Brown, who I looked to and said, next year he'll be the guy. Next year he'll replace Gibson. He's been great in coverage. I'm not talking, he's a rookie. And he'll get beat. He already been beat once against the Bucs in his first action ever. Like, he's going to get beat eventually. But through 3 games against massive tests, DK, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, DK again, Lockett, like, he's shown up and played extremely well. He has 2 picks already. I mean, he already himself looks like a playmaker on the defense, which they talked about him being a very mature rookie. You can tell. He doesn't get overwhelmed. He seems very poised, and the defense around him seems to rally behind him a ton.
He's been really good. Like, pleasantly surprised every single time he's taken the field now. And it's been 3+ games, 3 starts, and what? Because Hufanga got injured in the game against Tampa Bay.
Yep.
He came in that game and had the game-sealing interception. He's played really, really well, and you leave every single game kind of being quietly impressed with his performance. And it's fantastic news for the San Francisco 49ers, not just this season, because you felt like the Hufanga injury might be one that really hurts you. It hasn't really that much to this point, but you begin to look to the future as well. Tashaun Gibson is a veteran, and this might be his last year. Who knows? Now you have 2 young starting safeties for the time being and moving forward for the 49ers. So Jaya Brown's emergence is certainly good news for the 49ers. All right, let's go into the locker room and hear from Shanahan, and we got some sound from Fred Warner and Brock Purdy rolling in. I want to get those guys' perspective on the scuffle that happened at the end of the game. We started the segment talking about it. Deommodore Lenoir and DK Metcalf getting thrown out for a scuffle that originated between DK Metcalf and Fred Warner. Here's Kyle Shanahan talking about the scuffle and the following ejections.
And it's an awesome job by Fred, just keeping his composure and just taking it so he wouldn't get ejected. And then after that, and we were all excited, but I know there's a big scuffle after that, and I didn't see after that, but I was told Demo threw a punch too.
Was it a punch, or was it more of like a push to the face?
Was it like a Dre Greenlaw punch to Don DeSandro?
It was a little. It was more than what Dre did.
A little bit?
Definitely.
It was more like a little swipe.
I don't know if it was because it was more like a push, like from straight on, like just pushed him backwards as opposed to like a punch. I don't know.
You could break your nose that way.
You could.
Just take a fist and forearm or palm to your nose.
They've all got helmets and face masks.
Nah, dude, take them off, man. Leather helmets, octagon, go at it. Okay. That's what I'm saying. Honestly, these are grown men. Let him get 1 punch in. You're fine.
Anyways, Fred Warner, who was in the beginning of that scuffle, who, as Kyle Shanahan, his head coach, said kind of handled his emotions really well and did not get carried away. Here's what Fred Warner had to say about that scuffle at the end of the game.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, man. I told him he tackles really well, and then for some reason he didn't like that, and I guess what happened, and it's unfortunate, man. He got to learn to keep his composure, but happy we came out with the dub.
You think that's all Fred told him? You tackle really well? There's no chance.
Hey, man, you're a great player. Now I'm going to grab your face mask because I'm angry at you for that. Hey, man, I really appreciate your game. What'd you say to me? Like, dude, what's going on?
You're a really good tackler. You tackle so well,
he
DK.
Just pulls the shirt
Great
off,
job.
reveals all the roids in his back, and you're like, dude, like, what's going on? Dude is like Bane from Batman. He just presses the button, all of a sudden it's like, roid rage, and you're like, what's going on, DK? I said, how's it going? I hope you had a great day. He just flips the switch and it's over with. You guys are insane.
Oh, God, that's funny. Fred Warner also was asked about Diamador Lenore, who eventually got ejected. But Demo came to Fred Warner's aid. Fred, what do you think of your young DB?
Man, I know what Demo is made of. He ain't got to show me nothing out there. I don't want him hurting himself, you know what I'm saying? So hurting himself or hurting the team, we know what he's made of, you know what I'm saying? It ain't nothing to prove out there, but I always appreciate, guys protecting each other out there. So, I mean, that doesn't surprise me one bit.
Appreciate a Demo, but not needed, Fred says.
Is that Fred quietly saying, like, I got this. I can take care of myself?
Maybe. I think it's also a message to Diamador Lenore, and I think he's probably already felt this. I mean, he's in that locker room every single day. Diamador Lenore's play over the last, month and a half.
Yeah.
It was a question mark before that, and he did not have a good start to the season.
No.
It seems like he's getting to a point now where I don't know if saying like he's one of the guys like is right, but it seems like he's becoming part of the core group of the defense. He's playing that much better lately.
It does feel like last year was kind of the beginning of the acceptance for him, and I think today, not that he needed to prove anything else, at least to myself, but more so, you're playing nickel for the last month. You moved inside after being on the outside for the beginning of the season. Then you're forced to go back outside and guard the other team's best cornerback, or receiver, which you have not been tasked with doing almost all year long, to step up and shut him down. And it almost felt like that Lenore was so happy with himself that he was like,
oh, he's on cloud nine.
I want to get one more shot in at you, DK. So he's like, you know what? Like, I'm feeling pretty good right now. I'm going to go ahead and take a swipe.
He was like a kid in a candy store. You kidding me? He was so happy with his performance, and he saw an opportunity.
It almost feels like Lenore being kind of the smaller little brother's like, I'm going to antagonize this big baby one more time and see what he does. Like, being the youngest brother myself, you can kind of get away with some things against your bigger brother, and like he's like, whatever, shake it off. But like, when you get your big brother mad, like, you better watch out, right? It felt like Lenore was like, I'm going to clown this guy one more time and see what happens.
Hey, he saw an opportunity, and he took it.
Exactly.
Now he got ejected as a result. The game's over at that point.
That's like getting spanked by your mom afterwards, though. It's fine.
So the 49ers, consecutive games where a defensive starter has been ejected.
Do it again next week. In the fourth quarter. Though.
Against the Cardinals?
Yeah.
If there's a Niners player ejection against the Cardinals, something probably went terribly wrong.
Well, I mean, only if their security guard walks on the field or something like that. The Cardinals just feel like the most vanilla team where it's like, yeah, we lost. What'd you expect? And it's like, and they'll just take it. Whereas Seattle feels like a team and, dare I say, a fan base full of poor losers. It just feels like they won for so long over San Francisco. Whenever they lose to us, it's like, man, I can't believe we lost. Seriously, man. And they're going to go throw a fit. It's like, yeah, you lost to a better team. What'd you expect to happen? You're not a good team, not a great team. You're not even a playoff team to me. And you can tell San Francisco feels that. You can tell that Lenore, being the smaller guy, wants to clown the bigger receiver, wants to almost show him or prove to him like, hey, man, like, look at the scoreboard. You have 2 catches on me. You're not having a great day.
Yeah, the Seahawks were 17-4 against the 49ers.
Wow.
Before Russell Wilson left. They won 17 of 21 in the Russell Wilson era.
That's painful.
Since then, 0-4.
Wow.
0-4. That's in regular season. 0-5 if you include the postseason.
Yeah, but even go back before Russ, it felt like Matt Hasselbeck and Seneca Wallace. And you're like,
Wallace.
How? Sean Alexander, who was great for a long time. You're like, how are those teams being, granted, bad Niner teams, but you're like, Seattle? Like, I never took Seattle seriously growing up until they got Russ, but it was like, Seneca Wallace.
They always were kind of the thorn in your side.
They were always like 7-9 and somehow beat you twice that year. And you're like, how? How? But now we've beat them 5 times in a row, swept them 2 consecutive years, and it feels like the NFC West, check mark.
Yep.
Easy done. NFC number 1 seed could be by the night. Put a little half check next to it. Put a little half check right there next to it. We're getting close, folks.
We are. You know what I just realized? I did not give you the Deebo Samuel NFL record breaker stat.
I feel
from
lied
today.
to you, Mark.
But we got to get to a break again, so I'm going to tease it
Double
one more
tease.
time. I promise you, it'll be the first thing we get to coming up on the other side. Deebo Samuel broke an NFL record today. You want to hear what it is. It's coming up on the other side as overtime continues here on 95.7 The Game. It's Grandy and Sterling. Your call is also coming up. Give us a call, 888-957-9570. More coming up on overtime after the Niners' 28-16 win over the Seahawks. More coming up next on 95.7 The Game.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same?
A flag at the 41-yard line. And there's another flag down the field.
I think there's two penalties. I think they late hit Wisniewski out of bounds. And then I also think behind the play, they're going to get San Francisco for an illegal block, potentially. I think there's two different penalties.
Was that on purpose, or did he just run from the pressure? Was that a fake?
It's an alert.
Now back to Overtime with Sterling Bennett and Mark Grandy on 95.7 The Game.
Yeah, Mitch Wisniewski running for 30 yards to convert on fourth down on what I don't think was a called fake punt. He just went for it himself, but unfortunately it got called back because of a Ronnie Bell illegal block as he went low to lay a block, although he really just slipped and unfortunately kind of turned into a block. As a result, redo fourth down, Niners punt anyways. But that was a fun moment watching Mitch Wisniewski run 30 yards down the field for a first down before it got called back.
Can I make a recommendation to Kyle Shanahan?
You can.
Put him in the backfield, Kyle. Give him some run, my friend.
Who is that? CMC back there?
Elijah Mitchell. Who cares? Put Mitch Wisniewski back there. He's got the stroke. 30 yards downfield. I don't see Mitchell doing that. I don't see Ty Davis-Price doing that. Jeremy McNichols doing that. It's CMC, and it's Mitch Wisniewski.
All right, we'll hear from Kyle Shanahan on that play, the Wisniewski fake punt, which, again, did not stand, but it was one of the more fun moments from the game. But I promise the Deebo Samuel record-breaking stat, and I got to finally pay that off. Man. I know. Really,
all day.
Really bad of me. So Deebo Samuel had a 1-yard rushing touchdown today, correct?
Correct.
He had a rushing touchdown. That is now the 19th rushing touchdown of his career, which is now the most rushing touchdowns by a player whose primary position is wide receiver.
Wow. Does that make Deebo Samuel the greatest dual-threat receiver of all time?
It might. Bobby Mitchell was the previous. He had 18 rushing touchdowns as a wide receiver. This is since at least 1960 when the stats were tracked. But Deebo Samuel, now 19 career rushing touchdowns, the most by any primary wide receiver in NFL history.
That's pretty crazy. The fact that, Christian McCaffrey is, I believe he's still 5 now behind Jerry Rice for the team season record of 23.
I have it here, 1 sec.
Deebo Samuel, the most touchdowns ever for a receiver on the ground, and brought Purdy second career highs through the air today.
Yeah, McCaffrey without a touchdown today, unfortunately.
So he has 17 still. He needs 6 more to tie Jerry Rice.
Yes, he's 6 shy of Jerry Rice. Jerry Rice, 23 touchdowns in 1987.
So good.
Have you seen Rice, the top 5 list?
It's all Jerry Rice.
So Jerry Rice by himself, 23 touchdowns in 1987. Christian McCaffrey is tied with 2 different Jerry Rice seasons for second. Jerry Rice had 17 in both 1989 and 1995. Terrell Owens had 16 in 2001, who he's tied with 2 other Jerry Rice seasons who also had 16. So Jerry Rice had 16 touchdowns in one season, 16 again, 17 in one season, 17 again, and also 23.
The fact that we've been this spoiled, not just to win 5 Super Bowls and watch the Giants win 3 World Series here, but the fact that arguably 2 of the greatest athletes in their respective sports were playing in the same place at the same time.
Yeah.
Barry Bonds and Jerry Rice.
Legends.
I've been so spoiled just to watch those 2 guys. And I will say this, my favorite Jerry Rice is, aesthetically, it's...
You're going to say the Seattle Seahawks Jerry Rice,
I was going to say Denver Broncos, actually, but...
Oakland Raiders?
It's actually Raiders Jerry Rice. He was so good. It felt weird at first, but Jerry Rice, he made any jersey look good. But Jerry Rice in the silver and black actually wasn't that bad of a look. They almost won a Super Bowl there, too.
I can't believe those words are coming out of your mouth.
I won't lie. I did don a 80 Jerry Rice jersey for a while.
Wow.
I also had a Dante Culpepper Vikings jersey.
Sound the alarms.
Hey, man. It was more
You were wearing a non-Niners jersey?
In my
Who is this guy?
In my
YouTube, text line. Ada, what is going on here?
It was
I don't know this
Jerry
man.
Rice. I wasn't rocking the Joey Porter or like the Tyrone Wheatley, Charlie Gardner. It was just, give me Jerry. You give me a loaded Jerry and I'm just fine.
I mean, Jerry's the greatest athlete in the NFL.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He is my favorite athlete of all time.
He's incredible.
It's like Jerry and Bonds right there.
By the way, we were talking about the Mitch Wishnowsky fake punt. You know who just pulled off a fake punt in the Sunday Night Football game between Philadelphia and the Eagles? Or Philadelphia and the Cowboys? The Eagles pulled it off. And now they're driving down trying to score.
They're just copy and pasters. Oh, San Francisco did it. Now we have to do it.
Their punter threw for the first down.
Cowards. He's scared to get hit. Coward.
And it did count. It did not get called back because of a penalty. They are now facing a 4th and 5. The Eagles are. And they're down 10-0 in Dallas against the Philadelphia Eagles. Jake Elliott, or against the Dallas Cowboys. Jake Elliott is on for a 52-yard field goal.
About to get some fantasy points.
Well, he might miss. We'll see. If this is good, it's a 7-point Dallas lead. But regardless, things are looking up for the 49ers as the Cowboys have a lead in Dallas against the Eagles. And Jake Elliott's field goal is good. So
Jalen Hurts fumbled too.
The updated score in Dallas, 10-3 Cowboys over the Eagles, about 12.5 to go in the first half. So the Niners handled business earlier today, Sterling. They got a win, and now the Eagles trailing by 7 in the first half. If that score holds before the night is over, when we all go to bed tonight.
I don't sleep.
I'm
like Batman.
When the clock hits midnight and the day turns to Monday, the Niners will officially be first place in the NFC if that score holds.
I'm like Michael Keaton in Batman where he hangs upside down like a bat to sleep, actually. Tim Burton, what were you doing? It's weird. The text line says, the 510, DK Metcalf is the Ross discount version of Terrell Owens. Man.
Is that disrespectful to
Ross? To Ross? Like, what are we doing here? Ross is much better than DK Metcalf. Maybe John Ross version. Like, come on. What are we doing? Ross is great for discounts.
John Ross was such a bust, no one even knows who that is, Sterling.
I know who John Ross is. He lives right here in my heart. He's the fastest 40 time of all time.
Shout out Washington Huskies.
No.
Yeah.
Well, you don't want to say that, but
I do not want to say that.
Panics.
We're talking about the fake punt by Mitch Wishnowsky. Here's his head coach, Kyle Shanahan, talking about that play and, unfortunately, the penalty that followed that wiped it off the board.
I don't really know what happened on it. I think he just hesitated a little bit. I haven't got to talk to him personally. I don't know if he thought it was going to get blocked or if he bobbled the snap a hair or he just had a glitch, but it was a good one because when he paused and stuff and saw the edge, it was obviously a clean look and he didn't hesitate for it. And I was just told he hit over 20 miles per hour on it, so that's real cool. I know Ronnie felt bad about it, but wish we could have avoided that.
Is that true? There's no way the punter hit 20 miles an hour running down the sideline.
I have to look up fastest speeds in the entire NFL right now.
That's got to be a joke. Someone's lying to Kyle Shanahan.
20 miles an hour?
That can't possibly be true.
Okay, to keep that in mind, the top speeds this year, Tyreek Hill, 22.01 miles an hour.
There's no way Mitch Wishnowsky is within 2 miles per hour of Tyreek Hill.
Devon A. Chain, 21.93 miles an hour. The fact that our punter, 2 miles an hour under the fastest player in the entire league.
Apparent. We don't know if that's true.
Oh, hey, don't question Kyle Shanahan.
I'm questioning him.
Wow, you're a hater, dude.
There's no way Mitch Wishnowsky can run 20 miles per hour.
Why not? Why not?
He's a punter.
They got strong legs. They got the muscles to push the thighs. If anyone's going to run fast, it's going to be a punter.
I need to do some recon. I need to know if this is true or not. Because if it's true, maybe you're right. Put him in the backfield.
That's what I'm saying. Give him, literally, the annexation to Puerto Rico, Mitch Wishnowsky style. I don't know where he's from. Australia, right? The annexation of Australia. Mitch Wishnowsky has to be in there somewhere. This man's running 20 miles an hour. Like, this man should be running for Team USA for the Olympics. 20 miles an hour? Are you kidding me? That's faster than probably Brock Purdy, probably George Kittle. Half the team. That's like Raheem Mostert level of speed right there. He's out there surfing on the waves and everything. Mitch Wishnowsky's a gamer, man. Wow. There's no way it was 20. There's no way.
I'm trying to find some sort of real source. Let's see. Data from Next Gen Stats.
Please tell me. Please.
Mitch Wisnowski hit 20.13 miles per hour on that fake punt, which would have been the 5th fastest ball carrier speed by a punter in the Next Gen Stats era.
That's crazy.
Unfortunately called back for an illegal block.
Who's the fastest punter ever? Marquette King, maybe?
Oh, now we're going down a rabbit
Ray
hole.
Guy.
Shout out.
Who's the punter that had like the weird foot? The kicker that had the weird foot. Tony Danza played him in the movie. You know what that is?
Oh, yeah.
I want to see that guy run. That guy's probably 100 miles an hour. That's awesome.
Oh, man. But I think Kyle Shanahan hadn't seen the replay. It was relatively clear that it was just Mitch Wisnowski realizing he could, right?
Rogue.
It was like all out. There was no gunners on the side.
They were coming for the block.
They were all coming for the block, and he had a lot of room off to the right side. Everyone else on that side of the field had turned his back to him. I think it was a called normal punt. Mitch Wisnowski took a beat, saw no one was going to block him, knew he had a moment to maybe think about it, began to run. No one picked him up, and he's like, I easily have the first down here. And he picked up 30 yards, and then it was all called back. But that's got to be difficult to do in the moment, Sterling, because you're so worried and you're so focused on getting the punt off, and you're so worried about it getting blocked. The wherewithal to like cancel out of the plan, like on a moment's notice and take off, seems really difficult to do. And Wisnowski made it look easy. It didn't stand, and they later punted, but I was impressed.
Do you think there's a conversation of like, all right, Mitch, you got your one, never again?
Well, it kind of sounded like Kyle Shanahan was, I haven't talked to him yet. Like, I got to kind of give him a stern talking to.
It feels like that's a lot of the conversations Kyle Shanahan has to have with his team, where it's like, yeah, it's great you did it once. Don't do it again, whether it's Brock Purdy or Deebo, whoever. We've heard a lot and seen a lot of plays this year with Brock where it's like, it worked. You maybe got lucky. Like, now I'm going to have to talk to you and say, play within the system, play within the play itself. For Mitch, it's like, okay, I know you got 20 miles an hour. You think you're pretty fast now, huh? What are you, Raheem Mostert back there? And it's like, all right, Mitch, like, chill. Like, don't do it again. If it happens again, I'm going to put Legatron out there, and he's going to do punts from now on.
Legatron perfect again today, 4 for 4 PATs.
Best nickname of the year, Jake Moody Legatron?
I mean, the Niners have not needed him. When was the last time he attempted a field goal?
I forgot he even played here. Like, who is Jake Moody?
We talked a lot early in the season about red zone offense being a little bit of an issue.
Yeah.
And that's when the Jake Moody conversations were happening, because he was attempting way more field goals.
Browns, Vikings.
I'm going to look up his game log. I don't think he's attempted a field goal.
I think the Bucs game was the last one.
I was going to say either Bucs or Jags. It's been at least 3 consecutive games, I don't think, where he has a field goal attempt.
And guess what? Thank God.
That's what you want. You do not want to have to rely on your kicker to make field goals.
Well, not even because of that. It's just that the less he kicks, the less I worry. I'm okay with that. I haven't had this fear of like, here comes Jake Moody, gonna kick a field goal. I can't wait hope this one, fingers crossed, goes through the uprights. It's like, oh, there's Jake putting on the PAT. There he is. There's Legatron out there making these, 23, 30-yard chip shots. Ooh, easy stuff.
He did attempt one and made it from 32 yards out Thanksgiving night against Seattle.
Oh, wow.
The last 2 games has not attempted one.
So why didn't he get a turkey leg?
That's a really good question.
Haters.
He made 5 kicks that night. 5 for 5, 4 extra points and 1 field goal. But
nobody gives the kicker making PATs and field goals and the punter running 20 miles an hour any love. We'll do it right here on Overtime.
Shout out Legatron. Where's our guy on the Comcast Business text line? We see him every week. 510
there. Oh yeah.
Oh, there he is. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Legatron's still perfect.
We have
the 510.
We have that. Then we have Dink and Dog, the Seattle Sea Frauds. Then he said, let Metcalf double fist it, so we'll stop there.
Well, he stole that from you. You brought that up. I'm not touching it. All right, let's get back on track here. Overtime continues on 95.7 The Game. It's Grandy and Sterling. Kyle Shanahan post-game talking about his quarterback, Brock Purdy, and he was asked about the strategy of the Seattle defense because there were a lot of deep shots down the field for the 49ers, and Brock Purdy hit almost every single one of them. Head coach Kyle Shanahan asked about the Seattle defense. Were they daring Brock Purdy to beat them? Here's the head coach.
No, they're actually pretty soft in all their coverages. They have deep guys all the time. You got one off schedule breaking out. The touchdown to Deebo, just their hooker stopped on the play. So when you do that, there's no one by him. And he saw, I think it was 33. He stopped and Brock saw it. And that's why he got a wide open touchdown.
So Kyle Shanahan talking about the Seattle defense saying, no, they were not daring Brock Purdy to beat him downfield. They know better than that. They're smarter than that. They know that Brock Purdy can throw the deep ball, but even though they were prepared for it, Brock Purdy still beat him deep down the field.
Do you think it's more of like, do you think Kyle wants teams to dare him to throw it downfield? Or it's like, I know he can do it. We know he can do it. It's like, it's almost like you hope defenses continue to disrespect him. Or it's like, we talked earlier about, the MVP conversation, how the national media doesn't give him the credit, brought up Eric Mangini, where it's like, do you want the flip, though, where it's like, please continue to disrespect Brock Purdy? That way, he can show you on the field how good he actually is.
I think there's a part of that where maybe it gives you an extra chip on your shoulder to keep you motivated.
Right.
I also think the Niners offense is at a point where if a defense says, all right, you know what, we're going to take away the deep ball today. Okay, the Niners will just, for lack of a better term, dink and dunk you to death, right? They'll beat you underneath all day long.
Curse words on the air, Mark.
They'll beat you underneath all game long if that's what your plan is.
It's dink and dog, okay?
But the Niners offense is also good enough to where you go, all right, we're going to take away the short game. We're not going to allow McCaffrey out of the flat. We're not going to allow Deebo on shallow crossers. We're not going to allow Ayuk on a slant. We're going to take all that away. Then guess what? The Niners are good enough to beat you over the top and deep down the field. Like, I think if you're Kyle Shanahan, you're kind of set either way, and you don't really need the opposing defense to pick one side or the other because you can do either kind of equally effective.
Is it weird to say that the only team to get in the Niners' way this year, to stop them from accomplishing their Super Bowl aspirations, their goal to get their 6th Lombardi, is the Niners? That no team has a chance.
The number one is health.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Niners related, obviously. You can't control it, but I mean, the Niners are the most talented team in the NFL, and they have consistently played their A game way more than any other team in the NFL.
It does feel like if they're going to get beat by somebody, it's because they didn't come to play, not because the other team actually beat them.
It would also take the opposing team playing really good football.
Like,
yeah. You have to credit that team for doing it.
Right. But like the Browns, the Vikings, it feels like you have to credit those teams for, okay, you showed up, you beat us, the Bengals being the prime example of that. But it feels like this Niners team as a collective, in a way, feels like you are playing prime Tom Brady, where it's like 2 minutes on the clock, you're going to want the ball in Brady's hands. It feels like as a collective, you're like, man, like, this team just feels like if they're going to lose, it's not because you actually beat them, it's because they beat themselves.
Yeah, we're getting to a point where this Niners team is so talented and things are clicking so well that as an opponent, you don't control your own destiny, right? It's like you're in a playoff race and pretend you're the San Francisco Giants and you're down by. You trailed the Dodgers, and this is a really bad example.
Dude,
considering
they just shined Shohei, and you're out here throwing the name out there.
You're down by one game entering the final day of the regular season. You need to win, but the Dodgers have the tiebreaker on you. So you have the tiebreaker, or you need to force a one-game playoff. You need the Dodgers to lose. You need help in order to extend your season, right? You go into a game against the San Francisco 49ers right now, not only do you need to take care of your business, you need to play your best game.
Yeah.
The Niners need to slip up. If you play your best game, the Niners play their best game, the Niners are winning. I don't care who you are. That's how good they are. If you are an opponent and you take on the San Francisco 49ers, you do not control your own destiny. You can play your A++++++ game. If the Niners play their A++++ game, you lose. The Niners peak is better than every other peak in the NFL. If you are to beat the Niners, you need to play great. The Niners need to play not as good as they can.
We'll take it further. I think it takes a team's A++ game. San Francisco can still play a B+ game and still win. That's how good they are. Like, if their peak is better than anybody else's, which I think it is, I think San Francisco can have, like we saw against Philadelphia, They didn't score a point, and they still won that game handily. They can take fourth quarters off because they're beating you so bad. It feels like the Niners, over every other team, can have an off day and still beat you by 15 or 20. And we saw it today. They weren't great today, but now the scoreboard says they won by 12. The box score says Brock Purdy had a career day passing.
And by the way, a 12-point win is one of the smaller margin of victories they've had all season.
Exactly. And again, today wasn't a great day all-encompassing of the entire team. They had some turnovers. They had 2 of them, mind you. They didn't score where they needed to. Some offensive drives stalled, but they still scored 28 points, beat an NFC West divisional opponent, and essentially secured the division up today. Now, I thought it was wrapped up 2 weeks ago, but now it's even more wrapped up. In fact, it's so wrapped up, it's under my Christmas tree right now. That's how wrapped up it is. It's so wrapped up, my mom got it for her birthday yesterday. It's wrapped up, it's done, it's over.
Yep.
Division's ours, number 1 seed. As of right now, it might be ours. 16-13, Dallas over Philadelphia. Oh, we're feeling pretty good, Mark.
Extra point coming to make it 17.
Well, I don't know. Number 1 seed's right there. I can taste it.
A double-digit lead for the Cowboys in the first half. It'll be 17-3 in a matter of moments when Brandon Aubrey makes the extra point with 6 minutes and 14 seconds left in the first half. The Niners, you're right. They can smell it. They can taste it. They are a half a football away from the 1 seed in the NFC. The Eagles are going to need a second-half comeback, which they have done before a number of times this season, if they are to come back and win this game and keep the Niners away from the 1 seed in the NFC, at least for the time being. All right, let's go back to the phone lines here on Overtime on 95.7 The Game as we continue reacting to this Niners win 28-16 over the Seattle Seahawks. Up next is Michael in Concord. Michael, what's up? You're on Overtime with Grandy and Sterling. How you doing today, Michael?
I am great. I feel like you guys live in my head because everything you just said is like exactly what I was going to talk about. So I think you guys are amazing. It's like my probably second time calling in a while, but I was at the game today. Crowd was electric. It was awesome. I feel like exactly what you guys were saying. Like if we're on top of our game and another team's on top of their game, we're just going to destroy people. So today was a gritty game. I think we needed that kind of game to say, everybody just brings something. And Ayuk had over 100, Deebo had over 100, McCaffrey had over 100. So, I think that score easily could have been 42 to whatever. And I think Seattle got gifted 60 points today because we were fighting and gritty, and they were, they got away with some calls or no calls, but it is what it is. We have to, weather that storm. So I feel like it was a good win today, and I'm fired up to see what happens the next couple of weeks.
Hey, Michael, appreciate the call, and thanks for the kind words as well. It means a lot. I'm not sure I'd say that the Seahawks were gifted 16 points. I was honestly impressed with Seattle today, playing without their starting quarterback. I thought they played a fine football game, and the fact that this was only a 12-point margin, and I say only kind of with quotation marks because that's still a big margin of victory. But I thought Seattle, I thought it was 31-13. That was my prediction. I thought this was going to be an easy, no-sweat game, even if you might fear kind of an emotional letdown. The Niners coming off of an emotional high from last week when they knocked off a team with only 1 loss on the season this late in the season. I honestly thought Seattle played a pretty good football game. They brought out the Niners play. Did you see that? The Colby Parkinson touchdown where Drew Lock fakes the throw left, fakes the throw right, then throws down the middle to a wide-open Colby Parkinson. The Niners ran that exact play on Thursday Night Football in Seattle last year. It led to a George Kittle touchdown over the middle. They took a Kyle Shanahan play and used it, and it worked. It got them 6 points.
Cease and desist.
That's the intellectual property of Kyle Shanahan, Pete Carroll.
Trademarked it. What is this?
It's a great play, though.
It has worked twice when the two teams have played each other. But imitation is what? It's the best form of flattery, right? Mm-hmm. It feels like every offense wants to be Kyle Shanahan. And it has been for a while, especially knowing that you have the McVays and the Shanahan coaching trees out there. It feels like every offense has been taking things from Kyle Shanahan. But even this year alone, Shanahan was taking plays from Mike McDaniel in Miami, but in a weird way, to connect the points here, It feels like San Francisco today played more like Miami would, with the explosiveness, with the speed, rather than the Kyle Shanahan 13 plays, Christian McCaffrey 8 handoffs, Purdy has 5 attempts. It felt more like San Francisco played like the Dolphins did today, rather than how we've come to know the Shanahan San Francisco offense, which if you can do both, by all means go out there and do it, because as the YouTube chat says, Brendan Dillinger, miles per hour wins Super Bowls. Today it won you a game. You play like this explosive, it might win you a championship.
Yeah, and I think at the very least, it just shows everyone else, if they didn't already know, the Niners can beat you in a number of ways. They can beat you in a grinded-out game. This game kind of felt that way, but there were a ton of explosive plays as well. The Niners are multifaceted, and you try to limit one thing, they're going to get you with another thing. So this Niner team is extremely difficult to plan against, and they're even more difficult to actually play and compete against because they can beat you so many different ways. All right, time for a break. It's our final segment of Overtime. Coming up next, Grandy and Sterling continue to celebrate this Niners win over the Seahawks. And by the way, the Cowboys lead the Eagles 17-3. The Eagles, though, driving in the final 5 minutes of the first half. We'll update you on that score coming up next as Overtime continues here on 95.7 The Game.
So, how's your research going?
Surprising. After I figured out the top-rated TVs in our price range, I went shopping for deals.
And Oh, don't miss out. Check out video only now, or
you'll be sorry.
No place to hang out or washing, and then I can't blame all on the sun. Oh no, we're gonna rock down to
Electric Avenue,
and then we'll take it higher.
Now back to Overtime with Sterling Bennett and Mark Grandy on 95.7 The Game.
Overtime continues here on 95.7 The Game. Sterling Bennett on the ones and twos.
Right now, Mark, I'm on Electric Avenue right now, my friend. We're riding high. Niners win. It's not Christmas time yet. It's time to get on Electric Avenue. There we go.
To Electric Avenue. And then we'll take it higher. Oh, God. Get over to YouTube. You can see Sterling bobbing and weaving right now.
Niners won, Mark. What else should I do? If I wasn't here, I probably wouldn't have any clothes on.
What?
Me and Eddie Grant having a good time.
Oh, my God. Sterling having a great time celebrating a 12-point Niners win, 28-16 over the Seattle Seahawks. Brock Purdy threw for a career-high 368 yards, 2 touchdowns, did turn the ball over once with an interception. Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey, all over 100 yards. Deebo and George Kittle had receiving touchdowns. Deebo had another on the ground. Deebo Samuel now has the most rushing touchdowns for a primarily wide receiver player in NFL history.
The wide back.
He's now scored 5 touchdowns in his last 2 games. He is on another level right now. George Kittle had a 44-yard touchdown catch. Deebo Samuel, a 54-yard touchdown catch. Brandon Ayuk had a 45-yard catch that did not go for a touchdown. Christian McCaffrey had a 72-yard touchdown run that did not go for a touchdown. The Niners were explosive offensively as they've ever been. And really, Sterling, I think they are getting to a point offensively where they're just striking fear into opponents. Because, as you mentioned earlier here in overtime, they can put together a 12, 13-play drive that goes 80 yards down the field, takes off 8 minutes of the clock, and get into the end zone and kind of take your will away.
The dink and dunk style of offense.
But they could also go 80 yards in 2 plays and get into the end zone, and the ball goes right back to your offense, and you've barely caught your breath on the sideline yet. Like, this offense is so multifaceted, and they're so good at both aspects of it. It's almost hard to describe because it's rare you have an offense that can do both things so well.
What was your thought when Christian McCaffrey broke that run?
I thought he was gone.
Because my thought
was scoring.
Maybe it's me being cynical. It was like, we have to play offense first. Okay, everything's going Seattle's way already. Like, what's going on here? Then he breaks the run, and I was like, game over? I know Eric Crocker out there sounding trumpets on Twitter. Like, it felt like the minute Christian McCaffrey ran 72 yards downfield, if there was anxiety, if there was anyone feeling anxious, it felt like that was gone. You breathed and you said, oh, I forgot. We're the best team in the entire league.
Can I focus on that play for a minute?
If you want.
So, first play from scrimmage of the game. Niners, after a touchback, get the ball at their own 25-yard line. And it's a pitch to the left for Christian McCaffrey. And he eventually cuts back to the right, has a ton of green grass, goes all the way down to the 3-yard line. But that play and the way that it happened, the way that McCaffrey got free, I think it perfectly encapsulates what makes this Niners offense so unique. Because obviously it's a pitch to one of the best weapons in the NFL, Christian McCaffrey. But who set the edge against a defensive end? Yeah. Deebo Samuel, your wide receiver, your other great offensive weapon, blocked a defensive end and didn't get blown over. Like, he held his own. He set the edge against a defensive end.
It's that trunk again.
and then your other wide receiver, Brandon Ayuk, is running step for step with Christian McCaffrey down the field, eventually shakes Witherspoon, the Seattle rookie corner, off of Christian McCaffrey, lays a block, allows McCaffrey to gain like 15 or 20 more yards. Now, it wasn't a touchdown, down to the 3-yard line, 72 yards. But it was, I think, again, the perfect encapsulation of what makes this Niners offense unique. How many other elite offenses in the NFL have a running back setting the edge against the defensive end and have another willing a wide receiver setting the edge against the defensive end and another wide receiver being willing to sprint 70 yards down the field and catch up to the running back to lay another block? It's so rare, and it's what makes this Niners offense so good, and it's something that Nick Bosa talked about last week, what everyone's been talking about all year. As good as this team is, as talented as this team is, they are also so unselfish. They're willing to do anything to help anyone else. It'll be one guy's day, one game. It'll be someone else's game the next. They are so unselfish, and that is an underrated aspect of what makes this team, but also this offense so good.
Well, sticking with that, as the NFL season progresses, some teams have to get away from what works in week 1 when it comes to playing in week 13 or 14. Once you get late in the year, what works early in the season might not work anymore for a variety of reasons. Guys get hurt. Maybe guys are hindered for a variety of reasons. Who knows? But this Niners team, go all the way back to Pittsburgh. Christian McCaffrey's long, insane touchdown run.
Yeah.
Who's downfield?
Ayuk.
Who's setting the edge? Ayuk and Ray McLeod. This team is exactly who they were in week 1, and they're exactly who they are now in week 13 or 14. This Niners team, their identity has not changed. It's, we're going to run the football effectively behind Trent Williams. We're going to pass the ball either intermediately or down the field against you with Brock Purdy to Deebo and Ayuk and Kittle. And we're going to make sure our motto stands true: no block, no rock. This offense wants to pound you into the dirt even when they don't have the football in their hands. Whether it's Pittsburgh in week 1 or it's against Seattle in week 14, San Francisco's motto, their identity has not changed.
So what does it tell you, and I ask this question honestly, I have my opinion, but what does it tell you that the Niners and their strategy, their overarching theme, the way that they go about their business, their offensive scheme, their plan, as you laid out, same things we're talking about today were the case week 1. What does it tell you that it's still the same? I mean, other teams change things up, have to evolve. The league figures out how to stop something. Like, is this just a case of the Niners and their plan being so difficult to stop that there's no reason to go away from it?
It almost feels like, well, you can have maybe a day, Cleveland being one of the best examples, the Bengals being another one, where it's like, man, like, whatever you're doing is working defensively. But then you sit back and say, well, Deebo didn't play, and then Trent got hurt, and McCaffrey was hurt in the Cleveland game early and was hindered against the Vikings. At full health, this team, I don't think their game plan, I don't think their scheme, I don't think their identity can be matched. I think it's the best in the entire NFL by far. I think who they are is tried and true. Whereas teams like Dallas, come playoff time, you get shaky. You go, oh, it's the Dallas Cowboys. They're going to lose. Teams like Philadelphia, is Jalen Hurts who he was last year? I don't think so. I think if you look at every other team, all 31 teams, you're going to say, they have this issue and that issue. Their identity, it really isn't a sticking formula to victories, whereas San Francisco, it's like they've won 10 games doing the same thing almost every single time because it works.
And no one's proven that they can stop it. So why would you change?
You can't blitz Purdy. You can't play man. You can't play zone. You can't. Every level of their team, they're not perfect. No one's saying they're perfect or unbeatable. But it's who they are. At the core of their foundation, it starts with John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. It just feels like they're built to last. They're built to go through 21, 22 games, and they're not going to change. There was a cut to John Lynch prior to the game jogging the steps of Levi Stadium to honor, I believe it was someone who had passed away in maybe a war or died on a bicycle, something like that. That's who he is. He's a kind, true, loving person that cares. That filters down to the entire organization where when Fred Warner and Metcalf are getting involved in stuff, you have Lenore, a guy who's 5 inches shorter, out there taking shots, backing up his guy. They're going to run the rock. They're going to get in your face, and no one has been able to stop that. It's just, like who they are as a person is almost unmovable. There's so much foundation there. It's not going to change. No one's going to say, Kyle, it's not working. He's going to say, sit back, breathe, and watch this thing play out.
Yeah, I can't confirm this because I did not see John Lynch running the steps at Levi's, but former Tennessee Titans tight end Frank Wycheck, who is famed for throwing the lateral in the Music City Miracle.
Awesome play.
He passed away today, unfortunately, at the young age of 52. So sad news for the NFL family. I would imagine that's who John Lynch was honoring. Frank Wycheck, of course, former teammates with Lorenzo Neal, part of our 95.7 The Game family. Lorenzo Neal was on that team.
Whoa.
You heard Lowe on the kickoff show getting ready for this game here on 95.7 The Game, so certainly we send our thoughts and prayers out to the family of Steve Wycheck. Very, very unfortunate. Passed away today at the age of 52. Again, part of one of the most famous plays in NFL history, the Music City Miracle. He was the lateral guy. He set the whole thing up. But yeah, certainly thoughts go out to the Wycheck family. But you're right about this Niners offense. And I think maybe to a lesser degree, it extends to the defense as well. That's just how much talent that this team does have. But you begin to look at goals for the San Francisco 49ers. They're now 10-3, Sterling. You've played 13 games. You have 4 games left. You have a 4-game lead in your division.
There you go.
So the only way that you do not win this division is if you have the tiebreaker over the Seahawks. So you need the Rams to win out, and you need to lose every single game that you play the rest of the way.
Which probably is not going to happen.
I would be willing to bet a big sum of money that the Niners will not lose the rest of their games, and the Rams will not win the rest of their games because they play each other.
How much, Mark? How much you want to bet?
Everything in my bank account.
Wow. It feels like that there is only one game where you're worried about it, and that is Christmas Day against the Ravens in Baltimore, where that might be.
Is it in Baltimore?
I think so. If it's here,
I think it's in Santa Clara.
If it's here, we're having a fun time on Christmas night.
I
feel like it's in Baltimore. If it's not, then oh boy, we're bringing on the eggnog.
Oh, it's at home. It's in Santa Clara.
Mark, I might come in a full Santa outfit. We're gonna have some fun.
You better.
I mean,
now that you said that.
I need to find a Grinch outfit. I'm talking not like those dumb I'm the Grinch. I'm talking about full on Jim Carrey Grinch. I'll eat an onion on the air.
Oh God!
I'll do it. It'll be great. We'll have a great time.
Now that you have said this on air, I'm going to hold you to it. If you don't come in either a full Santa outfit or the Grinch, I will be upset.
So here's the thing.
You do not want to ruin my Christmas.
I'm going to be on an airplane the next day at 5 o'clock in the morning, so probably not going to happen. But I'll certainly act like it. I can be Santa.
By the way, in the final minute of the first half in Dallas, the Eagles have got a field goal, so it's 17-6.
6 points.
But the Cowboys are at the 1-yard line with 24 seconds left. They just completed a pass to Brandon Cooks down at the 1-yard line. There were a couple of penalties on the Eagles a few minutes ago that extended the drive and gave them good field position. But it looks like, barring disaster, the Eagles will score another touchdown before the half is over. The Cowboys, excuse me. The Eagles are on defense, and the Cowboys are at the 1-yard line. The Cowboys are already out in front, 17-6, and if they get one more yard, this will be 24-6 at halftime.
Can we sing the song about Philadelphia now?
You can.
You don't want to?
I don't want to.
Wow. Not on the bandwagon yet?
No.
You don't want to classify them as this certain name?
Is it the F word?
It is the F
word. Not that F word.
Wow. You really aren't ready yet?
Well, I mean, I'm not patting myself on the back because anything can happen. The Cowboys still have a really, really tough schedule moving forward. They got the Bills coming up. The Bills just beat the Chiefs. I thought the Cowboys were going to win the division at the beginning of the season.
That's true.
And right now they're taking a big step towards that.
So
now we'll see.
If you thought that, why can't we sing the song together? We can end the show holding hands, singing the song. Right in the mic.
I don't even know the song.
I sing it every time we have a show, Mark.
Yeah, and I don't listen.
Just blur it out.
All right.
Sherlin's singing again. Forget what he has to say.
Final few minutes of overtime. You're on 95.7 The Game as the Cowboys go for a touchdown just before the half. We're going to get to our game balls.
Ooh.
And by the way, before I even get into that, the Cowboys have scored. Michael Gallup, a 1-yard touchdown reception. You add on the extra point, and it will likely be 24-6 Cowboys at the half.
F-R-A-U-D-S. F-R-A-U-D-S. Frauds.
Oh, wait, there is a flag.
Oh, no. The stripe's taking it away.
Oh, touchdown stands.
It stands.
We're good.
F-R-A-U-D-S.
This has gone off the rails. All right, let's do game balls. We got about 7-8 minutes left of overtime here on 95.7 The Game. Let's wrap up this 28-16 Niners win over the Seattle Seahawks. The Niners now 10-3 on the season. Seattle falls to 6-7. The Niners are one game away, one positive result away from both a playoff appearance, locking up a playoff appearance, and also locking up the NFC West. They could get that as early, the playoff appearance, that is, as early as tomorrow.
Look at us.
They will likely clinch the NFC West next week.
Who'd have thought?
But let's do game balls. Sterling, I'll let you go first. Who does your first game ball go to today?
Do I just give it to Lenore for smacking Metcalf in the mouth?
Hey, you could. That's a good pick.
That's what I'll do.
All right.
DK Metcalf was a nothing burger, a non-factor for his second game in a row against the San Francisco 49ers. In this game, DK had 2 catches for 52 yards on 5 targets.
And both those catches were in the first quarter.
When Lenore wasn't even guarding him, one against Mooney Ward, one against Ambry Thomas. The other, 3 times he was targeted, nada, zilch, nothing. And he had an interception, Lenore, that was taken away because Nick Bosa jumped off sides. Then he smacked DK baby roids in the mouth. It was awesome. It was great. Lenore gets my first game ball.
I like it. Yeah, Deommodore Lenore was really good in this game. Limited DK Metcalf. I'll go with the obvious one. I guess there's a number of obvious ones.
There's like 13 of them, but yes.
But on the offensive side, I got to go Deebo Samuel.
Yeah.
7 catches, 149 yards, and a touchdown. On the ground, had a touchdown, just 1 carry for the 1 yard. It was that 1-yard touchdown run. So 150 total yards for Deebo Samuel, 2 touchdowns. He now has 5 touchdowns in his last 2 games. He is looking like that all-pro version of himself from 2021, and when he's on this level, this offense just reaches a different level. Deebo Samuel was fantastic once again. He gets my game ball, certainly deserving of it.
How about I give one to an underrated player?
Okay.
Someone that Niner fans have unfortunately grown to dislike in his tenure, or maybe fall out of favor. Eric Armstead didn't play today. You know who played today?
Javon Kinlaw?
Javon Kinlaw played today. He had 2 sacks against Philadelphia last week. Today had a half a sack, 1 tackle for loss. I believe he stuffed Zach Charbonnet on a massive play early in the game. With Javon Kinlaw, just getting anything from him feels like a win. But he's playing really good football right now. No Javon Hargrave for a portion of this game. He was a factor from the opening kickoff to the end of it. I'll give Javon Kinlaw some love today. He gets my game ball.
I like that. Javon Kinlaw, yeah, I mean, you're right. Kind of quietly putting together a solid few weeks. And, I mean, the key for him, obviously, you want to see him produce and you want to see tackles for loss and stuffing the run. But it's just good to see him healthy for an extended period of time.
Do you think they lock him down in the cellar and feed him squirrels through a slot? That's what I would do. Not to sound inhumane, but if it works, it works.
I think you might need to provide people with the context
Pete
for that
is going to call me in a second, get me fired. Jeez. Don't call me Negan. I'm sorry.
Oh, God.
I love you, Javon.
I'll go next. I'll stick on the offensive side of the ball. Purdy obviously deserves a shout-out, but I'm going to go with Brandon Ayuk. 6 for 126. Did not get into the end zone today, but with those 126 yards, including a 45-yard bomb, he's now over 1,000 yards for the second consecutive season.
That's
the
awesome.
first Niner wide receiver to do that since Anquan Bolden all the way back in 2013, 2014. So shout out to Brandon Ayuk. Consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. 1,000-yard seasons becoming more and more common as the league gets very pass-heavy, and obviously longer seasons now. You play 17 games, but Brandon Ayuk doing it this season in just 13 games, over 1,000 yards. The best pure route runner this team has by far. He's been great all season long, very consistent, and he's been on a bit of a heater lately in terms of catching touchdown passes. Did not get that today, but 126 receiving yards. He gets a game ball from me today.
My last game ball, I think it's the most obvious one besides Deebo Samuel. And that is, of course, the MVP favorite, Brocketh Purdy. Brocketh Purdy the ninth. Brock Purdy, 19 for 27, 368 yards, darn near 370 passing yards. Had Brandon Ayuk, your game ball buddy, not fumbled, he would have had 370 yards. He had 13.6 yards per attempt, 10.5 air yards per attempt. So Eric Mangini and the Dink and Dunk boys out there, how about you eat that for breakfast tomorrow morning? 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. That was your game ball. Ayuk's fault again. Better watch out, Mark. Your boy Ayuk has some holes in his game. No, but he was great as well. They had a 122 Pullman rating. Brock Purdy has just been, dare I say, perfect since the bye week. 1 mistake, turned the ball over just twice in the past 5 games. He's been awesome. There's a reason why he's in the MVP conversation. He did it once again today. He was sacked 3 times. I don't care about that stuff. You win by 12 against the Seattle Seahawks. You can take that all day long. And I believe Brock Purdy now is 4-0 against the Pete Carroll Seattle Seahawks. He has to get a game ball from me.
Yeah, 4-0 as a starter against the Seattle Seahawks. Impressive for Brock Purdy. You say the NFL MVP favorite? Well, I would agree. I don't know if the rest of the world does, because Dak Prescott, at halftime, they lead. The Cowboys lead the Eagles 24-6 at halftime. He's on pace for 304 touchdowns today, Sterling.
He's just doing what Brock Purdy did 1 week ago.
Yeah, you're right.
He's late to the game. It's already been done.
We'll see. But it is good news for the Niners. The Cowboys currently have an 18-point lead over the Eagles at the halftime break. All right, one last game ball. I'll go over to the defensive side. And I got to give it to the reigning defensive player of the year. Nick Bosa had a sack and a half. He pleaded his case. He made sure he got that full sack. You mentioned this earlier. It was Drew Lock stepped up in the pocket and almost got back across the line of scrimmage, but Nick Bosa brought him down just behind the line of scrimmage. He pointed to the official, said, "Hey, where are you marking this? I got him behind the line. That's a sack. That's a sack." And it counted as a sack. Nick Bosa had a sack and a half, and he's been on a good streak of late. After a bit of a slow start off of the bye, he has looked like the DPOY that he was last year. He's been very good, and today was no different. Nick Bosa, a sack and a half. He gets my last game ball. As the Niners, Sterling, have now won 5 games in a row. They're 28-16, and they continue the Bird Gauntlet. A week from today, they take on the Arizona Cardinals. And then we got the Baltimore Ravens on Christmas. Going to be a ton of fun. Looking forward to these next 2 games. It's going to be hard to not look forward to Christmas Day against the Ravens when you have the Cardinals waiting between them. But Niners got to take care of business, because if the Eagles lose this game, like they're down by 18 right now at halftime, you'll be tied for the number 1 seed in the NFC. It might take winning out to finish as the 1 seed. So you can't take any weeks off if you're the 49ers. All right, that'll do it for overtime here on 95.7 The Game. The Niners knock off the Seahawks 28-16. Thanks to everyone for tuning in all afternoon and evening long. Thanks as well to Chris O'Connell for cutting up all the highlights, giving us all the sound you heard throughout the show. For my partner, Sterling Bennett, who has one more word for you. What's up?
Mom, happy birthday.
Hey.
I won't say your age. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Love you. Dinner last night. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. All right, that'll do it for us here on 95.7 The Game today. The Niners knock off the Seahawks 28-16. They're now 10-3 and could clinch a playoff spot as early as tomorrow. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Mark Randy signing off right here on Overtime on 95.7 The Game.
And then I can't blame all on the sun. Oh no, we're gonna rock down to Electric Avenue, and then we'll take it higher. Oh, we're gonna rock down to Electric